Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Solo Inter podcast. I'm your host Parmeshwar, and as usual, I'm joined by Gautam today. Manish can't make it, but yeah, Gautam, you have come back to our podcast after a long time, man. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Good start to the season, good vibes, everything going good. So, touch wood, hope the season continues like this.
Yeah. I mean, I can't agree more. Like, of course, the chaos in the Mercato, had everyone worried, and of course, there's a long way to go into the season. But I think our savior Beppe Marotta and Piero Ausilio did a fantastic job to save this squad with the limited budget. And of course, since we talk about squad, since we talk about the Mercato and the budget, we have to now look at what our squad looks like, right? We haven't really rated our squad entirely yet. We haven't given our opinion concretely as per what you think or what I think or what Manish thinks. So I think it's time to get into that. So Gautam, of course, now our squad has 28 players. Uh, you know, some may not feel confident, some may feel confident at the same time. We have a new head coach, obviously Simone Inzaghi, and he loves the look of this squad at least. So as long as the coach is confident, as a fan, I have to be confident. But what's your before we get into categorizing each player via tier maker? What's your initial thoughts on this squad? Like, what do you think? How do you think it looks? Are you satisfied with the Mercato, or you think there could have been a bit more that could have been achieved in this market?
I would say I'm satisfied. I think mainly because there was such a big meltdown after Conte left, after Lukaku left, after Hakimi left. We thought
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
going to be a disaster. I mean, the
Hmm.
worst fears were coming to like, okay, is Sunning going to disassemble this squad completely? Are they going to sell
Hmm.
everyone? And then Pepe stepped in, and I think Pepe actually told, like, if you're going to dismantle, I am not going to be here. And they had to please Pepe and Ausilio to make sure that they are part of the project. So initially, because of that reaction, wherein like we thought it's going to go really bad, and then Pepe worked his magic. I think the Mercato went well. I wouldn't
Hmm.
rate it as bad. I would still rate it as good, not excellent, but I would still rate it as good because when you see Joaquin who came in, he's the one who Simone wanted. So when Simone wanted him, not Simone, Simone Inzaghi wanted him, and we could get him. So that's a good thing because Conte wanted Lukaku, we gave him Lukaku. So when the coach wanted a player and we could get that player, and that's a positive sign. And people want to join Inter now. Even though we have lost Lukaku, we have lost Hakimi, it's not a disaster. We have reinforced. And if you look at the first two matches, it looks like the players have gelled in. The new players have gelled well. And Vidal has been born again this season. Somehow he has got his energy back, and that's a bonus as well. So yeah, overall, I would think the Mercato is good. I would rate it as good.
Yeah, and I agree. The thing is, as you said, it's all about context. Like, if you don't put things into context, you might think it's bad. But if you had to rate it from a director's perspective, from Marotta and Auxilio's perspective, you would probably give it a 10 on 10 just because of the low budget they had and what
Yeah,
they could get with that. And especially the fact that, we had to negotiate with Lotito to get Joaquin Correa. Let's not forget, we still ended up getting. I thought Correa is not coming to Inter at all. That's what I had. I had that feeling because we're directly basically negotiating for Lotito. I know Correa wanted to leave and everything, but still, Lotito is pissed off at Inter. He's pissed off at Marotta and everyone. So fantastic job done. And yes, of course, I can't give it an 10 on 10 in terms of an overall basis because we had to let players go. Lukaku left. We saw his interview where he claimed that he decided to leave after
yeah.
Chelsea made their third bid. So whether we should pin that on Suning or not is a matter of discussion for a later day. So Gautam, let's get into it. So I'll just basically explain the tier list to begin with for our viewers and for our listeners. So of course I've made this tier list personally yesterday on tiermaker.com for the 21-22 squad. As you can see, there are various categories on it from top to bottom. Calciatore Spettacolare is like the best player you could put in there. Spectacular footballer. You have good going down, solid and useful, average, room for improvement. And the last category is who if there is any player probably feel doesn't belong in the Inter squad. And this was the breakdown, and we have all the 28 players below here. For starting from Kolarov, Bastoni, Correa, and everyone. So everyone's included, even players like Colidio and Brazao who couldn't get any loan spells. So yeah, that's how we'll be ranking them. So Gautam, let's get into the thick of things and let's start. So first here in the list, we have Mr. Alexander Kolarov. Of course, we had to start with him. So what do you think, Gautam? See, I know, we all know Kolarov on the pitch has been a disaster for Inter. 2021 season. And we still don't know what he can offer going into the season because he's not really played apart from preseason. But what I keep reading about this guy, Gautam, is that he's very essential and important for the locker room. Like, he is a big leader. It was important to get Edin Dzeko to Inter as well. Dzeko himself said this in an interview. So what's your overall expectation from Kolarov going into the season? Do you think he continues to remain more of a backroom leader than his on-pitch influence? And, based on that, where do you think he should be ranked? And then I'll add into your opinion as well.
I mean, on the pitch, I would, if it's just on the pitch categories, then I would say it doesn't belong in the squad because he's not getting any younger. So, but if he's such a useful person off the pitch, take him out of the squad, give him a separate role in the team. Let him be like like an assistant manager or something like that. But he does not belong in the Inter squad right now because that's a spot taken. You can have someone else in that spot. He's like you said, he hasn't shown anything on the pitch to make us feel like, okay, he can at least be in the subs bench.
Exactly.
I mean, I rather would sub in Ranocchia anytime than Kolarov.
Yeah, so I mean, I can understand that perspective. As you said, with Kolarov, it's a bit of a tough one now, especially now that you read all the reports. He's so important for the locker room. I know he is not the best left centre back backup option there is, but also I feel at times, what sets him apart from the likes of Ranocchia and Ambrosio even is that his ball playing ability. It's still not that bad. If you see the derby we lost last season, he was the one who got the assist for the Lukaku goal. He tends to have these good ball playing moments, and I know he's faded. I'm not going to say, of course, Kolarov is just fantastic because of the leader he is, or because he took a 50% wage cut on his contract. As you said, off the pitch things, I think if I had to rate him like 10 on 10, I would probably give him 10 on 10 or 9 on 10 because he gets so much praise. But on the pitch is the big question mark here. How much do we weigh that in? As you said, you feel he doesn't belong in the Inter squad. I'm inclined towards that. Of course, there's no room for improvement over there for him. He's not younger. I put that category for mostly younger people. But, it's a bit of a dilemma for me in terms of average or doesn't belong in the Inter squad because of that off the pitch factor. So what do you think finally we should grade him? Average, or do you think he doesn't belong in the Inter squad at all?
See, the thing is, like, if you are telling he's average, that means he belongs in the squad. Now, would you want him in the squad, or would you want that slot free for someone else who actually has room for improvement?
Yeah. So I think that's where you could consider a youngster like Zeno Van Huysden coming back because you of course bought him back and then loaned him to Genoa for further development, which is fair. And he's cost us the most this market, if I'm not mistaken. I was reading an article. He's cost us 16-20 million euros, and of course he's been loaned out. So that way, I agree with you. And yes, let's put it. So what we do is that, of course, I'll put him in the category as to where he doesn't belong in the Inter squad. That's where Kolarov goes for our audio listeners as well. He's been ranked way at the bottom, that he doesn't belong in the Inter squad. But to add context to this, what we mean is that on the pitch, he has had worrying moments and he has cost us a lot of points last season. And we don't expect that to improve per se going into the season. He's not going to have much of a role to play in terms of playing the number of games he will, because we all know, Gautam, Inzaghi will probably use DiMarco or Darmian there as well. He might just do that over Kolarov. So in terms of that, we don't have much more expectations, but also to his credit, we would like to say that he is an excellent leader from all the reports we read. So yes, while that does factor in, we still feel that he doesn't really belong in the squad. And let's not forget that he was going to leave Inter. It's just that we didn't have the resources to get a backup. And, the management felt Van Huysden wasn't ready enough yet. And he's a player for the future. So I think, Gautam, as you said, finally we can agree that he doesn't belong in the Inter squad.
Also,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm not sure. So does he take up a non-EU spot?
I think he does. Yeah, Kolarov does, if I'm not mistaken. You're correct.
So then, doesn't belong in. Then definitely doesn't belong in the Inter squad. So you can.
Yeah, I might have to do a range check on that, but I think he does because, of course, Serbia and as you said, because I remember Kostic does take up one for Eintracht Frankfurt, if I'm
Hmm.
not mistaken. So unless Kolarov has Italian citizenship, which I'm not too sure of, again, I'll do a rain check on that for all our
Yeah.
listeners and viewers. But yeah, I think he does take up one, and you're right, Gautam. And yeah, I think again, just to add context to whoever's watching or listening, just because we have just started, just because we put him right down at the bottom that he doesn't belong with the squad doesn't mean he doesn't have a role to play. You can see the categories, and we need to add context. He's an excellent leader. He might be, we don't doubt that. But as a player, we don't feel he has much to offer. And I think Gautam and I pretty much agree on that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, if
Gautam, I
you
think,
if you if you
yeah,
look
sorry.
at it, if you look at it like a bell curve, I mean, if
Yeah,
you
exactly.
you have to look at his rating compared to other people in the squad,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this is for on the pitch. It's not off the pitch.
yeah, yeah. And I agree. So Gautam, let's move on to the next player. I think rating Kolarov has set the tone for, in terms of context as well. So next we have Mr. Alessandro Bastoni. What a player. I think
Yeah,
just how to start with, I think he belongs at the top. Calciatore Spettacolare. I mean, I don't know where else he can go. I think he's just way better than good. What do you think
yeah. I was
of
thinking of
this?
the same. I was thinking of the same thing. Like I thought, should I put him in good? And then I'm like, just because of his age and he has room for improvement. But then
Yeah.
he is so mature for his age, and he has
Mm,
shown that he's not faced by pressure.
exactly.
It,
Exactly.
it doesn't
So
matter
I.
whom he's facing, like he
Yeah.
gives it his all, and he actually is useful in the back three.
Mm.
Even though
And
he's the
also,
youngest guy.
exactly. And also, it's so hard to find top-notch left-footed centre backs. Let's not forget that. That's the hardest thing to do. And as you said, the moment he was instilled into the squad by Conte, he just gelled in so well. He started benching Godin in 1920, if you recall. Yes, he had his fair share of errors, but he's worked on it so maturely, Gautam. He's getting call-ups for Italy. Of course, he will start as years pass or months pass, whatever it is, whenever Mancini deems it fit. But I think he's just so calm, composed, consistent performances week in, week out. As you said, the right word you used was matured. He's fantastic right now. And his ball playing ability, Gautam, you remember those lob through balls versus
Yeah,
Juventus? He does it in so many matches. It's almost pinpoint, pinpoint accuracy. So I think he belongs in the top category, which is calciatore spettacolare, spectacular footballer. What do you think? I think he belongs there, man.
yeah, he actually belongs there because when you look at our back
Yeah.
three, even when we
Hmm.
are under pressure last season,
Yeah.
when we are not actually performing well, it
Yeah.
was we never had complaints of the back three. The
Hmm.
back three is
Yeah. Exactly.
always solid. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
never the back three is never our weak spot now. Everyone knows we have the
Yeah.
best defense in the league right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm. Yeah.
even though he's young,
Hmm.
he can stand up to anyone.
Definitely, definitely. I agree. And yeah, man, I think that's where he belongs. And I think if we once we get to the rest of the backline, I think that's where everyone would belong anyways. So yeah, coming to Mr. Joaquin Correa, our latest signing, Gautam. Of course, his debut, fantastic. Dream debut. I mean, he's been an Interista ever since, and every player says that. But Correa is definitely an Interista. There's no doubt about it. You
Yeah.
can go and read articles. He's been to the Miazza before. We couldn't sign him in 2012 because the transfer fee didn't work out and everything. But he's an Interista and he's finally here. His debut versus Hellas Verona was fantastic. A brace, looping header. He's not
Yeah.
scored. He hadn't scored a header since 2018, but he comes and scores a header. Second goal, fantastic finish, calm, composed, ice cold, as they say these days. And yeah, man, Gautam, what do you think about Korea? See, with Lazio, he has grown a lot under Inzaghi. As you said, he gave Inzaghi just the player he wanted. So, what are your expectations going into the season for him? And based on that, where do you think he belongs? You think he's calciatore spettacolare or good? Or, yeah, what do you think? Where do you think he should be?
Now I'm in a dilemma because I don't want to put him alongside Bastoni because he just came
Hmm.
in, but
Hmm. Hmm.
he's better than good. He's
Hmm.
not
Yeah.
he's bit more than good, but he's not
Hmm.
spectacular.
Calciatore.
Not yeah,
Yeah.
he's not right now, but I would put him in good because, like you said, the
Hmm.
looping header is always difficult. It's difficult
Hmm.
technique to master because it can go anywhere. It's not like it's coming with full power and you just place
Hmm.
it. He's
Hmm.
actually looping it over the keeper, and it's
Hmm.
really good. And if you see the goal against Argentina as well,
Hmm.
the World Cup qualifier, very linked
Yeah.
up with Lautaro, that
Hmm.
was a rifle shot of his right foot.
Yeah.
With us, his first goal, his second goal was of his left foot.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so we have seen a left foot goal, we have seen a right foot goal, and we have seen a header within 2 weeks. So he's the complete package. He's really good in what he's doing. His link-up play with Toro will improve because they play for the country and the club together. And the movement, the way they find each other is like really good. So I would. So for now, I would put him in good. But if he gives us
Also,
20 goals this
also,
season, then
yeah, and also I think what we can put it as is, yes, he goes in good, but the top half of good, which is, we could always say, as you said, he's better than good, but also not calciatore spettacolare yet, like not that on
not
that
this,
level. I feel
not this
not
season.
of course, especially because it's just too early to assess him on Inter days. Like, of course, if we include the entire Lazio career, you could always have a debate and everything. Yes, he has grown a lot under Simone Inzaghi. His as you said, Gotham, going into the season, his technical ability, his calm on the ball, his dribbling speed, the maturity he has grown, like the way he has grown into in terms of its dribbling as well. I think all that will prove to be fruitful with Lautaro Martinez.
Yes.
But I think that's what we will see at the end of the season in the tier maker when we do one at that point and compare it with this. So as things stand, of course, fantastic debut. That's the debut he would have wanted, dream debut for him and for us as fans. And I think he belongs in the good category, which is just below Calciatore Spettacolare, but at the higher end of the good category.
Yeah.
So I think that's where he belongs for now. I'm definitely confident he can do well. Of course, he may not be the poacher like Lukaku, like a high goal scoring poacher, but I think this Inter has like many players have a role to play in this Inter. Not only like one player carrying like Lukaku did, or even Hakimi had such a vital role to play. I think many players will play a role. So I think for now, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, people who don't watch Serie A and people who don't know Joaquin would not consider him as a good signing. But for us, he's actually a good signing because he actually fits into the team. And I really expect him to have a really good season with at least 15 goals.
Yeah, and let's not forget, by the way, his numbers, as you said, might not show for the non-watchers or the people who don't watch him regularly. But the difference he added at Lazio for Immobile as a support striker, for playing with Alberto bit behind him, the technical ability in that whole squad under Inzaghi in the last 2 seasons was fantastic, especially. So, that's what you have to consider. These players basically create for others as well a lot, not only for themselves. So I think, Gautam, you're right there, and I think we should put Correa in good for now. Of course, guys, if you disagree, you want to put him higher, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Next, moving on, we have Mr. Alex Cordaz, our academy keeper. Of course, he's brought in by Inter to be the backup goalkeeper. He was the first choice goalkeeper at Crotone. I was just going through his stats that he hasn't had many clean sheets, but when you're keeping for Crotone, you can't really expect that. He's going to be the backup keeper anyways. But what I've noticed, Gotham, from the bare minimum I've watched, is that he does tend to have these moments of making decent saves and good reflexes more than Padelli, I would say. More than what Padelli could offer. I know whenever Padelli played, bare minimum, coming off his line, he was terrible. Like, I remember he slipped, like lost balance too many times. He had no clue what he was doing. I think Corda just a tad bit better. What do you think in terms of expectations? What do you think how handy do you think he's going to come into the season, and where would you put him? Do you think he's solid and useful, or do you think he's just average or any other category?
See, honestly speaking, I haven't seen much of him, so I would leave this to you. But I don't think he'll see any minutes this season at all.
Yeah.
So
you know what? Honestly, I think I think, of course, you're being honest, and that's good to know. And I feel that now that I think of it, he's obviously going to be more of a third choice keeper. I feel, although while his experience counts, I think from the latest reports as well, Radu is going to be the second choice keeper, and he's going to give Handanovic a hard time as well. When we come to them, we'll rank them. I feel, from what I've watched, I feel I would just put Alex Cordaz in average. I don't want to say that he doesn't belong, because as per squad registration rules, also you do need a third keeper. You can't not have a third keeper, but he definitely is better than Bernie. I would even go as far as saying that he's a tad bit better than Daniele Padelli. So I think he just belongs in the category of average, which is below solid and useful. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but considering his age, wouldn't you put him in room for improvement though? Because he still has years ahead of him where he can improve. It's not like he has reached his peak and is still average.
I think Gotham, honestly, I don't think he can improve much. Like, because in my opinion, at least, to improve, you still need to see a lot of game time. You can't just be training week in, week out, right? And he's not going to play much unless Handa gets injured or suspended or whatever, right? And even then, as we discussed, it could be Radu starting before him, right? Because he's on the younger side, and in those few games he played last season, Radu did show a bit of encouraging signs, And Radu, if you see something about Radu, he's always ready to go. He's not low on morale just because he's on the bench week in, week out. He's so enthusiastic. So I think Cordaz for now just belongs in average. I mean, let's see how the season goes, and maybe we are wrong. Come at the end of the season, he could, as you said, be in the room for improvement category, or we might just look at it and say he never belonged in the squad. I think he
won't change, because I don't think he would see any minutes in the season. So
yeah, exactly. I don't expect much. So I think that's it for Alex Cordaz. Next, we have a bit of a not controversial, but many people. It's a player we certainly keep talking about a lot, Mr. Alexis Sanchez, El Nino. Of course, he's injured right now. Reports are saying he'll be back soon. He's working really hard to come back to play Real Madrid, of course, after the Sampdoria match midweek. Our first Champions League came at home. One thing I like personally about Gotham, about Alexis Sanchez, is that he always works hard. His commitment is something you cannot doubt. Never ever. Like, he will always work hard. He's back at Appiano. He's slogging his ass off.
I think that's a double-edged sword for him.
Double-edged sword. I was coming to that just before I asked you, because at times he tends to overwork himself. We all know that. Even on the pitch during a match, he's so determined. He's so charged up. At times it goes against him. It tends to, as you said, it's a double-edged sword. Perfectly summed up. But this guy, Gotham, last season off the bench has saved us so many times. The dynamism he adds to our attack. Direct runs in between the lines. That Torino match away when Conte was suspended, he came in, assisted Lautaro's header, if you recall, away. And this guy is fantastic on his day. And Conte did revive him. After his, spell at Man United, Conte did work with him. And yes, he does keep getting injured. But when you think of the prospect of this attack, Gotham, Edin Dzeko, Lautaro Martinez, Joaquin Correa, Alexis Sanchez, Martin Satriano, if all of them can remain fit to a good extent and contribute for the entire season, that's a scary attack, even if we lost Lukaku.
Yeah.
So what are your expectations from Alexis, and where do you think he should go? And I think just before I move to you, to correct myself, I called him El Nino. He's El Nino Maravilla. El Nino is Fernando Torres. My mistake. So to correct myself there. So where do you think, Gotham, he ranks, and what are your expectations for him?
If he keeps himself fit, which is a big if, I would still put him in solid and useful, mainly because last season when we saw him start, when he started matches, he wasn't that great. Over enthusiasm, overthinking, whatever it was, he wasn't that great. But when he came on as a super sub, 65th, 70th minute, he has that. He always had an impact, whether it's assist, whether it's goal, whether it's troubling the defense, opening up spaces, he did it all. So he's a solid and useful backup for Lautaro or Correa whenever they sub him. But I wouldn't start him in matches. I would keep him as a sub, but I wouldn't take him out of the squad at all. For me, he's really, really important, because once you tire the defense at around 70, 75th minute, and you're looking for that goal, either to shut out the match completely or to look for a winner, Sanchez is your guy. He's going to give you that thing.
Definitely. And Gotham, I think you hit you were spot on about that, because Alexis, whenever he started, was a bit of a doubt at times. I remember he couldn't really connect with Lukaku in a lot of games. I think they never really gelled well per se, maybe a couple of games here and there, but that was about it. And I think, as you said, he's more of an impact sub anyways. And I really value that. We really need a player like that. There were reports that his contract would be terminated. Fenerbahce were interested. And I was really worried. I was like, and when I especially saw the replacements, like a Ross Kamaka, and then I was like, nah, man, I'd rather keep Alexis. Like, I'm pretty sure Inzaghi would love him. Like, he's his kind of guy, like in terms of a player as well.
Yeah.
So I feel you're, sorry, Gautam, go ahead.
No. Yeah, so I was just saying like some people are starters, some people should accept their role as a super sub.
Yeah.
I know Sanchez would
And
want to play more and stuff like that, but imagine he comes on at 60, 70th minute every match and scores a goal in every match. He has 38 goals this season then, coming on at 70th.
Yeah, and the thing is, yes, see, Alexis, I think at this point, he's a very competitive personality, Alexis Sanchez. He wants to start, he wants to play for the better of the team. At that time, as you said, at times it works in the benefit for him and the team, and maybe against it, at times he tends to get overzealous of sorts. But he is that vital chunk we need. We can't only rely on Correa off the bench, or Satriano is still a young kid. We need to remember that he still has room to grow. So Alexis for me remains vital, Gautam, and I think I agree with you on this. Like he's a good player, but I think he doesn't have it in him to give like full 90 for a multiple number of matches, and that's why I would also rank him at solid and useful. But again, at the higher end of solid and useful.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rank him any below that because he is really close. Like he's a good player, we know that, but if he could just be more available on a consistent basis, I would have probably put him in good. That's my only thing with him.
Yeah, and I think he has to accept the role of being a super sub.
Yeah.
It's not like just because you're a sub, you're inferior to anyone else. No, but you're more impactful to the team if you come on at 70th minute. You're much more useful to the team that time.
And exactly. And the thing is, Alexis is also a leader in the back room. Let's not kid ourselves also. And I think this group is so strong, Gautam. I really hope they carry their values from last season. They realize that this is always a group effort. It's easy to say this, but it's hard to implement this philosophy of it being a group for the entire season, which is what Conte did last season. Yeah. And Inzaghi and everyone must respect Inzaghi and follow this, in my opinion, at least. Because if you want to win the Scudetto, it will be a group effort. There's no I before me. As cliche as it sounds, this Inter actually embodies the spirit of a team. Like this Inter is it. So I feel Alexis definitely needs to live up to it and understand and take his role, as you said. So Alexis for us goes into the higher end of solid and useful. Next, we have Mr. Andrea Ranocchia, the frog. I feel last season, Gautam, he actually stepped up his game whenever called upon. I genuinely feel so. Better than 1920, I feel, he was one of the main reasons why, this interview is famous now, that Lukaku and Conte keep saying that it was Ranocchia in that training session who helped him improve with his back to goal. Every time Lukaku mistouched a ball, he had to start the drill again. And kudos to Ranocchia for that. If you could do that, he did improve as a backup. He's never going to be a starter. We know that consistently, unless, of course, an injury happens or whoever's suspended. But I think he has improved as a backup. And while I really thought he was going to leave at the beginning of 2021, last season, he's proved his worth as a backup. You alluded to this earlier. You said you would rather have Ranocchia sub in for a certain match or not. I feel, Gautam, this is a tough one. I don't want to say like average in a bad way, but then also I feel he's useful but not that solid per se. I think personally, if I had to rate him somewhere, I would put him in average, but at the higher end of average. What do you think applies for Ranocchia?
Here I would slightly disagree with you because I don't know why. I think I have been like supporting Ranocchia for a long time now, but when we're slacking him off, like I was still supporting. Like no, he's a good person. And he's not the best defender. Everyone knows that. But I would put him in solid and useful just because as a substitute again, not a starter, but as a sub, whenever he was required, he came on and did it. Yes, there is a bit of danger when he comes on with everyone goes like, oh shit, Ranocchia now that's a weakling. But I think last season he has shown that he has improved. And I mean, if this was a chart at the start of last season, I would put him in average. But considering his performances last season, I would put him in solid and useful because he's a good backup to have, not as a starter, but maybe while time wasting, 80th, 85th minute, just like 5 or 10 minutes, just come on and stack up the defense. And you never know, he can offer like 2-3 goals a season as well.
Yeah, and also with Ranocchia, you can start him versus certain teams. Like it's not that he can't. I remember in 1920, he started at home versus Sassuolo, and that match was a disaster. I remember that that was the process where we bottled the Scudetto that season. But in 2021, I agree with you. Like he was good whenever called upon, start or subbed in. I remember that away match after the international break, plus when we were ravaged by COVID, if you remember, we played Bologna. Shaky game, like overall, Inter was very rusty and we just managed to win 1-0. But I think Ranocchia was called upon in that match, if I am not mistaken. And he did a good job then too. So I think, Gautam, what I agree with you sort of, I might have to change. He's not average, but I would sort of put him in the mid half or lower half of solid and useful.
Yeah.
Like, because if I put Alexis at the top, sorry, I put him at the top right there, but just to, reshift, like shift him again, I think he belongs in the middle or the lower half of solid and useful. And I think I agree. I probably was being too harsh on him because I like Ranocchia too. I think he's useful, and by staying that one season, he did prove his worth as a backup. So I think solid and useful is just about it.
Yeah, not even for not even 45 minutes, but like final 10-15 minutes, he is useful.
Yeah. And just to allude to something before, we said that Alexis Sanchez, he's working hard. As you can see a picture here, he posted on his Instagram, he's already back to individual training. You can see that, he's working really hard, It may be a double-edged sword, but this guy always wants to give the best, and it can definitely help us going into the season. So just wanted to touch upon that. Coming back to the tier list, Gautam, we have Mr. King Arturo Vidal next. Of course, I personally, when the Mercato was over, I was like, bro, ship this guy out. I want Niners in. And yes, those were my initial thoughts before we played our matches. But Arturo since then, before the matches, made a commitment that he wanted to redeem himself. He knew that he didn't do well in 2021. He realized that, and so far, so good in the first two games. His impact off the bench has been fantastic, Gautam. 1 assist, 1 goal versus Genoa, and an important pre-assist versus Hellas Verona for Darmian's assist and Korea's goal. And so do you think, Gautam, he will live up to his words in this role? Of course, he could start a few games. He may not start a few games, but this could very well be his final season. We don't know. This is the last year of his contract. We may not trigger that +1 option. What do you think? I personally feel Vidal, again, either probably belongs in the top half of solid and useful or mid half of good. What's your take on it, and what are your expectations from him in the season?
I wouldn't put him good for now. I would put him in solid and useful.
Solid and useful.
Yes. I mean, because of the performances in the first two games of the season as well. I mean, he showed that he has that hunger, that energy. He's not just going through the motions. He actually wants to give something to the team.
Yeah.
And he has shown it in the first few games. And if he continues the season like this, if he actually is useful for at least 30 games this season, I would see that Inter might trigger that extension, give him 1 more year. But honestly, like realistically speaking, I don't think we will extend it. It will be his last season. But I would put him in solid and useful because he's that character. I mean, when he comes onto the pitch, you're going to get something. You are going to get an energetic guy on the pitch. It's not like when Nainggolan came with us last season, or even though he has that thing like,
Jesus.
He's just going to run around, like jog around stuff.
Definitely.
But with Vidal, know that there will be some red card moments as well. But okay, fine, that is okay. But he's going to give it his all.
Yeah, and I agree with that. He is sort of like Alexis in a way. I mean, they've been together for so long. They've known each other for so long. And that also plays. And yes, Vidal is also competitive. He might be a bit, let's say, crazy at times, with his comments and whatnot. The red card, you remember last season. But I think he realizes that last season he did disappoint at Inter. I think somewhere down inside he knows that he didn't live up to the mark. We all know that, versus Real Madrid, he did disappoint us. Very childish from him, but this is a new start for him of sorts. He has to redeem himself. And I feel, as you said, Gautam, like, he's a champion after all. Wherever he's gone, he's pretty much won. And let's not forget, last season, he was the first one when interviewed to openly say he believed that Inter would win the Scudetto. Yeah. And this was way before, like this was even before December in 2021. That's when we were in patchy form of sorts. Like we were just getting into our stride, of winning matches. So kudos to him, and his mentality can definitely be important, And now Inzaghi seems to be keen to keep him as well. And I think he also is. Sorry, Gautam, just to add before you say something. Also, when Lukaku was asked this like last season, who do you think are the leaders in this squad? He said himself, Vidal. He mentioned Barella as one of the people as well. So it's always good to have leaders in the squad, Gautam. And I think if he can play a few games and then manage to start a few, and as you said, he might get his extension based on his performances, obviously, and how many games he starts. So I think he definitely belongs in the mid half of solid and useful. Sorry, you were saying something, Gautam.
Yeah. So we have to remember that Vidal was Conte's player.
Yeah.
Conte wanted him. And now,
Yeah.
let's say he had that comfort level last season because he knew Conte wanted him. Conte is there. So he can relax a bit. He didn't, but he could feel that he has the support of the manager. And now Conte is gone and he has to prove himself this season, saying that, dude, it's not just because of Conte I'm here. I'm here because I can actually provide something for this team. So I think if he has that motivation throughout the season, then he's solid and useful. Like end of the season, he'll still be solid and useful, all good.
Yeah.
But if he slacks off, then he'll go to the bottom with Kolarov.
Definitely. I agree. And I think that's where he belongs. It's a difficult one with Vidal. As you said, you never know what to expect in terms of continuity at this stage of his career. So let's hope for the best. Let's hope King Arturo remains level-headed and can maintain his fitness. I'm all for backing any player in our squad, man. Like be it Gagliardini, anyone. As long as they do well, they do their part. I'm all for it. So that's where we have put Arturo Vidal, guys, in the mid half of solid and useful. So next, we have Mr. Christian Eriksen. Of course, it's a sad thing that we won't be able. We don't know what's going to happen. Basically, we don't know if he can play this season. We don't know if he'll play after this season. We don't know if he'll ever play in Italy again. Of course, you can speculate and all, but it's better not to, it's better not to spread rumors about anything, especially in such conditions. But Gautam Eriksen, I just want to say something that second half of 2021, fantastic, man. Like, how good was he? And as we keep saying, I just read this interview about with Simone Inzaghi's father talking to Gazzetta dello Sport earlier today, or whenever it was. He said that Inzaghi was really sad that with Eriksen's condition, and Inzaghi really believed that Eriksen could be the focal point, the pivot of this Inter team, because we all know Inzaghi allows his players to have a bit more of freedom, and Eriksen would have loved this, Gautam. Eriksen would have thrived in this. I mean, I don't think we would have sent Hakan if Eriksen was available. And there's no disrespect to Hakan. There's no disrespect to Hakan, but that's probably a fact that if Eriksen was healthy right now, Hakan wouldn't have been signed because, of course, why would we need so many midfielders in the first place? We already had Sensi as a backup. So, what do you think, Gautam? Like, I don't, of course, I won't ask you what are your expectations for him from the season because we don't know if he'll play. But of course, so before we get into things, we all believe that his health matters first. His well-being is what matters first. His playing career can come later. That's up to him. But let's assume, hypothetically, if he was available for this squad, that's what we are going with. Hypothetically, if Eriksen was available to Inzaghi, what do you think he would have been like? I personally feel he goes right on the top because I think he's a fantastic player and Inzaghi would have unleashed him. What do you think, Gautam?
Yeah, I think you're right. When if Eriksen was available, we wouldn't have signed Hakan at all. I mean, Hakan is only here because Eriksen unfortunately can't play this season. I think he won't play for us this season because of the rules. And as you said, the health comes first. And football is, I mean, they play football till 35, 36. And then you have to lead your life. You can't just forget about the rest of your life and play football and be like, no, I'll take risk. No, you cannot do that. So it's health matters. So but if he was healthy and fit, I would. I don't know if I'd put him on top though. I would put him between spectacular.
I think what we could do is put him in the mid tier of Calciatore Spettacolare, because I still feel. See, Gautam, what I feel about Eriksen is that he, of course, with Conte he had to adapt to a new system, a new role, and that was not his forte. And you need to give any player a time to adapt. And I think this would have definitely been his thing, like Eriksen kept on saying like a more free role, he will thrive. And we know, like once he settled into the Conte role as well, he was deadly, man. Like he scored that goal versus Crotone that pretty much guaranteed us the, relief of getting the Scudetto at that point, and just because he's such a nice guy, man. I mean, he's a spectacular person. I think,
he's better than good. So I would put him on the top tier itself. Because
mid half of
because he's going to have that impact. For sure
definitely.
He would have got assists and goals, and off set pieces definitely he was a threat.
Yeah, definitely. And set piece is peach, man. That free kick versus AC Milan and whatnot. This guy versus Udinese as well, although it took a small deflection last season,
Yeah.
that was. But this guy is magnificent, and of course, I care more about his health first than him, returning to football. But it would be lovely to see him back playing for Inter at some point. Of course, for that to happen, there are medical evaluations going on for neutrals listening to us, or for those who aren't aware. Medical evaluations continue on a gradual basis. He's in Milan right now. He's continuing his recovery, relaxing. That's where he needs to be. There's no pressure from Inter. Some people, Gotham, I just would like to point this out. When you remember the video Inter shot when he came back to Appiano, and some people misinterpreted
Yeah.
and thought that he was actually come back. He actually came back to train. That's not it. He had come back to meet his team and everyone. So that was it. He's not training. He's just relaxing. He's focusing on recovery. And I don't know when, but at some point we will know whether he can continue without the ICD implant in his heart or not.
Hmm.
If he can't continue without the implant, unfortunately, he will have to part ways with Inter, because in Italy they don't allow you to play with the device, and that's for safety reasons, because the device can break. It is a bit risky during tackles and everything. The device can break. But if he's allowed to continue without the device, he will begin a recovery process, and that's when we hope to see him back after that, if that happens. So that's the scenario for Eriksen. We put him in the top calciatore spettacolare because we know he's a fantastic player on his day. But next, Gotham, we come to Mr. Danilo D'Ambrosio, late goal scorer, best known for his late runs, behind the far post. Those
Yeah.
headers he scores, that is block, is known for his last ditch tackles. Where do you put him? When I look at D'Ambrosio, the first thing that comes to my mind on that tier list is just solid and useful. Nothing apart from that.
Yep.
Honestly, that's just me. But what do you think? Like, I think it's as simple as that, solid and useful. Like, I don't think
Dude,
he's
it just defines him. He's solid and useful.
exactly. That one player who could be defined by a category in this entire 28-man squad list is Danilo D'Ambrosio. I don't think anyone else can be, like, honestly, because off the bench, like, as a starter, he won't offer much. But off the bench, he has his moments, late goals, last ditch tackles. But also the thing with him, he tends to be a bit versatile at times, right center back. Not the
Yeah.
best right wing back, but for a few minutes he can play there, even as a left center back if needed. But of course, Darmian does a better job. But I don't think we don't need to stress much on D'Ambrosio. I think that's just where he belongs. Like,
Yeah,
he's
and
decent. Sorry.
and the thing is, like, whenever he comes on, we never feel we are downgraded to a substitute player. We know that okay, it's still a solid flank, whichever he's taking up.
Yeah. And also, Gautam, the thing is, he might struggle 1v1 in, duels versus players, versus faster players, he does struggle. I remember Ribery giving him a hard time, but he's a decent player to lock the game down if you're, giving him the right kind of support at the back. So I think, Gautam, that's where he belongs, the mid half again of solid and useful. But one question I would just like to, before we move on from D'Ambrosio, do you think he belongs above Ranocchia or below Ranocchia?
He
Or do
definitely
you think
he belongs above Ranocchia for sure.
Yeah, I think, definitely. Yeah.
When he comes on, and if there's a corner or there's a cross from the opposite flank, he's there at the far post. He's a threat. No matter who is crossing or what the situation in the match is, if there's a cross and if D'Ambrosio is on the pitch, he's there at the far post. So he offers way more of a goal threat than Ranocchia, so that's why I put him higher than Ranocchia.
Definitely, and I agree. I think that's where he belongs, rightfully so. Next, we move on to Mr. Denzel Dumfries, and just to point out to begin with, Dumfries started for the Netherlands yesterday. It was his 25th cap, so he received like a small award, which is good, always good to know. And he was. I watched the match, Gotham, and he was decent, I would say. He had a few moments where he took on players only one, but he also lost a bit of possession. And I think it can happen at times when you haven't like really played your club football for quite so long. Like, he didn't really play for us per se. But Gotham, what are your expectations from Denzel Dumfries? Because many people, of course, we expect him to take over as the starter from Darmian. We don't expect Darmian to start throughout the season. What are your expectations, and where do you think he fits into this tier list? What's your take on it? Then I'll follow.
See, I don't know much about him and haven't seen him play much, but looking at the stats, I see this might rub people the wrong way. I would put him in average.
Okay.
So because I haven't seen him play, but when I look at the stats, it's not that promising. Yeah, he has pace, But
So I'll shed some context into Dumfries in that case. So the thing with Dumfries is he has been a late bloomer of sorts in his career. He was only a few years ago, he was playing like in the fourth tier in Netherlands. So kudos to him. One thing I've always heard and from some certain Dutch fans and Interhistory from Netherlands is that this guy is always passionate in what he does, and he works very hard, never gives up easily. So even if in the first few games you might not see him start, he will continue to work hard. That's one given from him. From what I have watched at PSV and at the Netherlands, what I like is again like Ambrosio, he makes good, well-timed runs into the box, especially late ones. He's more of a physical presence. Tries to use a bit of skills on the ball. But what I want from him to improve is his crossing. Doesn't attempt a lot of crosses. Doesn't even attempt. So I think it's something that needs work. Maybe it's a confidence thing. I don't know why he doesn't attempt them. His headers are good. Again, with like D'Ambrosio, late runs, heads it in. Late runs, heads it in. Not the best technically, not as technical as Hakimi for sure. I mean, we are not going to get another Hakimi. Let's face it. And that's nothing against Dumfries. But what we are going to get, Gautam, is that if he gels in my opinion, this guy is still going to be a very useful asset, and we expect him to start. Like, I still feel he's going to try and make that right flank his own. He's going to use his physicality, his speed on the counter. He is fast. He's not as fast as Hakimi, but he's damn fast.
Yeah, he's Gautam, quick, and he attracts fouls. So he gets fouls. So why I'm putting him in average is because I haven't seen. I'm only going by the stats. I'm going by the stats, so that's why I'm putting him. I agree. So end of the season, if he actually is above average, solid and useful, or good, so then I would change. But for now, I would put him in average. But if you have seen him, so if you think he's solid and useful or good,
I think what. Now, don't get me wrong, for whoever's listening or watching this or whatever, I would put him, and this is not as a downgrade in my opinion. This category, which is room for improvement, is not a downgrade to average in my opinion. I just feel the player needs time and room to grow. And I think that's where I would put Dumfries. And again, I know on the tier list, it's below average. That probably gives a wrong perception. My bad, I guess. But I feel we need to give him time to assess him properly at Inter. I still feel people need to, like, I've seen him, as you said, Gautam, I've seen him, I've watched him, fair. I can tell you on the basis of that, but what we are going by in this tier list is our expectations from him at Inter, and what if he had shown something in the first two games, but he's still adapting, so he couldn't play, right? So I think that's where I would put him. Don't get me wrong, for whoever's watching or listening, or even you, Gautam. I just feel he needs time to adapt to Inter. It's just that, to the new culture, to the new life in Milan. He's not. He doesn't speak it. And those things play a role. Like, poor guy, the other day he was giving an interview. Somebody asked him. The interviewer asked him, "Can you say a few words in Italian?" Poor guy ended up replying in Spanish. So these things happen. So Gautam, like, I feel this rating for him, which we rate him in the room for improvement category, which is tiered below average, but that's not our perception of Dumfries. Don't get us wrong. That's not our perception of Dumfries. We just want to have him get the right time. Let's not rush him, because Gautam, we all know that if we tend to rush players at times, they might not have a good performance. It might affect his confidence. And he gave this interview the other day. He wants to start, but everybody needs to be patient. Inzaghi knows what he's doing. He needs to gel in. And from reports I read, Gautam, he might start versus Bologna, which is after Real Madrid, because that's a home game as well. So I feel that's where we rank him, Gautam. Again, people don't get us wrong. Just because the tier is below average, ranked below average, doesn't mean we think that badly of Dumfries. We just feel he needs time to grow. That's our perception of Dumfries, and that's why he's been kept at room for improvement.
And like you said, you have watched him play, and he needs to improve on his crosses, getting the crosses.
Crossing, definitely. Yeah. And I don't want to be like overconfident and give anybody false hope or anything. That's just my perception, that I really feel Inzaghi can do well with him. Fans need to be patient, give him time, how much ever he needs. I know Darmian is our next option, but Darmian is Mr. Reliable, right? So let's be patient. Dumfries is completely new to the country, to the club. DeVrij will help him grow. There will be players. Our squad atmosphere excellent. They will help him out. So fans need to be patient. And even Hakimi took time, Gautam. I know, initially on his debut, he got an assist and everything, but even he needed time to be more balanced in his overall game, right? So it's all right. I think we put Dumfries in room for improvement with the thought that this is nothing bad for him. He just needs time to grow and to gel under Simone's system. Next, we have the Swan, Edin Dzeko, because he's known as the Swan of Sarajevo from where he is, I think. So, Mr. Edin Dzeko, fantastic career. I feel he gets underrated a lot, Gotham. Like, he doesn't get enough recognition. Because I think his career overall has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, you see the numbers. And yeah, many people were like, why is he the backup for Lukaku? But one, this guy I think in terms of overall playmaking, he offers much more than Lukaku. In terms of one-touch passing, especially, he doesn't only focus on shielding the ball. He offers much more, and I'm not just suddenly going to say, oh yeah, he's better than Lukaku and everything. No, but still at this age, he offers a lot, and he's. I hope I'm not jinxing this or anything. Like I don't believe in that, but his fitness record is tremendous. Like he doesn't get injured too often, so let's hope it stays that way. But yeah, Gautam, I feel the fact that we got Dzeko on a free, we only have to pay Roma $1 million if we qualify for the Champions League. But yeah, I think the fact that we are getting him on a free, and then also I managed to add Korea with the budget we had, and Dzeko definitely needed a change of environment. He had fallen out with Fonseca before and everything at Roma. I think he's a pretty solid signing. Like I don't know where I put him yet. Like I still am thinking, but what's your take on it? What do you expect from him? And where do you think he should go on this tier list?
So I would put him at good because the higher side of good, because he's not. I don't want to put him spectacular again because then we're diminishing what is spectacular. He's on the higher side of good because see, like you said, he's not Lukaku. Lukaku was a beast when it came to like physical specimen strength and all that. But Dzeko himself is not flat-footed. He can find spaces in the box. He can go in between defenders to get a goal, get a header. His link-up play is good. He holds up the ball. And one thing which is like people don't expect him is like having a shot from outside the box, but he has a rifle foot. He can shoot from outside the D as well. So I would put him as a good signing, not a good player. Definitely goal scorer and assist, but not so spectacular that you need to double team him to stop him.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think that's where I would put him. Good. Now that thing, I think I put him just right behind Joaquin Correa just because I think Correa can offer more in terms of versatility as well.
Yeah.
Like it's a close one. It's not that easy to rate, I think Dzeko just belongs in the good category and we rate him highly. Like we rate him highly even in that category.
Yeah, it's a higher part of good.
Yeah. So moving on, I think that's where the Swan of Sarajevo belongs. I think he's going to be important in this season. We don't know how much he'll start or how much he'll play, but the depth we have up front will be crucial to maintain his fitness and the fatigue for everyone. In fact, not only Dzeko.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he's here. He's someone who's been trying to come to Inter for the last 2 seasons as a backup to Lukaku. Even Conte wanted him. So that speaks volumes, Gautam. It's not only Simone who wanted him; it's even Conte who wanted him.
Yeah, and so the thing is Yeah, and the thing is like people expect Dzeko to be slow and they don't expect him to do that with like his movement and his passing. People don't expect it, and when he does it, it's a surprise for everyone. So it's not for him. And like people who know him will know that he's capable of it. But if you underestimate him, he's gonna punish you.
Yeah, and Dzeko, I mean, I think he's a very high IQ player, man. His movement is very lethal. When he times it well, it's fantastic. Even for the assist versus he got versus Hakan, and for the 1-2 he played with Vidal for his goal versus Genoa. The shielding, he's so tall, man. The shielding was fantastic. So he I just want to say that people should not count him out. Like I'm happy he's finally here. I would have loved for him to come here 2 years ago as well. And yeah, man, what a crucial addition, I'm absolutely glad he's here and he belongs in that category of good. Next, we have our youngster Facundo Colidio. Let me put some perspective into this, Gautam. He was actually almost loaned out to Austria Vienna, but the loan deal collapsed. He's a youngster from our academy. He's not really been able to gel in per se wherever he's gone on loan. He went to Belgium to St. Troiden, played a good amount of games, but managed to get like a combination of goals and assists of around 5 or 6 from what I read. Saw a few clips from what I got to watch. And he's still on the raw side. Like he's definitely not going to play any minutes for Inter. Like unless Simone Inzaghi just decides, okay, yeah, we're leading in a match comfortably in the Coppa Italia. Let's just field him on. And just to put some perspective into it, Gotham, the Turkish Mercato is still open. So if Inter find a Turkish club for him, he's gone on loan. He's probably gone there. Or he's definitely going out in January, again. So I personally feel like I don't mean this in a bad way for Colidio, but I feel he doesn't belong in this Inter squad because when you put the attack into perspective, Dzeko, Lautaro, Korea, I don't think he's ready to even take on from anyone. And it's unfortunate, when I had heard of him and had watched him in the Inter Academy, many people, including me, had high hopes, but unfortunately, it's not worked out for Colidio. And I think, unfortunately, and I don't again mean this in a bad way, he just doesn't belong in the squad when you put things into perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, I also, even though I haven't seen much of him from what you said,
Mm-hmm.
he's even
Yeah.
behind Satriano in the pecking order.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
then,
And it's sad. It's like you want your academy players to develop, and he was really highly rated. And with injuries and everything also as well, it just didn't work out. And I could always see sparks from all the videos I saw in a few games, Primavera games here and there. I got to watch moments of brilliance, but never turned into consistency. So I think that's where he about belongs, Gautam.
yeah,
What do you
and
think? What's your final?
yeah, and also
Yeah,
the
sorry.
thing is like because you told like he was loaned out previously to a
Hmm.
Belgian team as well. Now
Hmm.
it's not just you can compare him to what Esposito is doing now at Basel.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I think like we don't need another striker next season. We can just call him back.
Hmm.
He's,
Yeah, exactly.
he has improved that much. He has grown that much. So
Definitely. And
compared to him, if his play is not that great, then he doesn't belong in the squad.
yeah, and Esposito is raising eyebrows with his fantastic display at Basel.
And
Free
it's
kick
consistent.
goals, consistent Trivela assists, man. Like
Yeah.
perfect move by Morata to loan him there. Like he's thriving, he's getting confident, and might as well get him back next season to see how he can fit in.
Yeah.
Or Basel have an option to buy, and we have a buyback option as well. So Morata did a good job there. So even if Basel want to buy him and develop him further, we can always buy him later. Not a big deal. So yeah, I think Colidio is not better than Satriano or even Esposito at this point, and he's definitely, if you wanted to count the number of strikers, he's definitely sixth choice and way below fifth. No disrespect for him, he just couldn't develop yet. So yeah, he unfortunately doesn't belong in the Inter squad. That's about it. Next we have Federico DiMarco, our very own as well. Fantastic development under Ivan Juric, one of my favorite coaches in the league. One of the most tactically disciplined coaches coaching Torino, and he really worked on Federico DiMarco, Gautam. Yes, DiMarco still needs to improve on the defensive side of his game to an extent, but his ball playing crosses, bro, his crosses are fantastic. You see those early crosses he puts in, almost everything reaches a player. Gautam, of course, the season has just begun and people keep saying, oh, why is DiMarco not starting over Perisic? But we need to remember Perisic is a very hard worker and more balanced, and he's matured and experienced. That's why he starts, right? I think DiMarco will only learn from this and will compete with Perisic as the season passes. And let's not forget, DiMarco will also come in handy as a left centre back, as a left wing back. I have high expectations, Gautam. I feel he will gel in and do well eventually. But what are your expectations? Where do you think he should belong? And then I'll follow up with my thoughts.
Yeah, I would put him in solid and useful just because he has to improve. And I wouldn't put him in room for improvement because that would mean he has
that's not.
That's not. I mean, he is good. He's solid, and I think he's going to start every Copa match over Perisic. And like you said, Perisic is there because he's older. He knows what to do in situations. He's calm. DiMarco he doesn't have that experience to deal with situations. But the way he has improved is immense. And here he's only going to improve more with this coach and with his teammates around him. He's only going to improve more. So I'm putting him in solid as useful just because at the end of the season I want to put him in good. I'm expecting him to go one step further.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it, because again, as we pointed out, we'll be doing a tier list at the end of the season, and based on how they do, we'll be, of course, comparing this one with the one we do in the future. That's a good way of thinking, Gautam. Like, I feel DiMarco, I really want to put him in good, but again, he is still to adapt at Inter. He's still to grow at Inter. He's working towards it. Young player Simone believes in him. Glad we didn't sell him. One of our own. I love his crosses. Fantastic ball playing ability. Needs to be a bit more consistently concentrated throughout the full 90 at the back. and definitely is going to be playing as a left centre back here and there as well. And I
Now,
really hope he gets. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, like if you compare Colidio with DiMarco now, with
Yeah,
DiMarco, there is expectations. There is
yeah,
expectation like
definitely.
he will do, he is useful, he can do it.
Yeah.
We
Hmm.
expect him to assist, we expect him to do
Hmm.
the runs, we
Hmm.
expect him to
Hmm.
defend.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's why I want him
and
to be solid and useful.
yeah, definitely. And for those watching and listening, his goals at Hellas Verona and some of his defensive actions as well, interceptions, blocks, were fantastic under Juric. I would recommend go for people who haven't seen him to go and watch some of his highlight videos because he is really good. He has definitely come a long way, Gautam, as you said, from what he used to be in the early days and from what he
Hmm.
is now. That's tremendous improvement, and that's what when you mentioned Colidio is what you meant as well. Like Colidio couldn't show that improvement, unfortunately, also because of injuries, but DiMarco did, to his credit. So definitely solid and useful, and in the mid half for me, like because Alexis and Vidal are like veterans, and we expect
Yeah.
much more from them as well. And yeah, again, this is not a bad rating for Federico DiMarco. You just consider what we have said. Room to grow. We definitely feel he has a lot to show, and there's a long way to go into the seasons. Please definitely factor that in. He goes into solid and useful. Next, again, I won't say unfortunate case. It's Gabriel Brazao. He's a young goalkeeper. In the Under 17 World Cup in India, he was the starting keeper for Brazil. And I watched because the World Cup was being shown as well. And I actually did go watch to one of their games in the stadium. And amazing flashes of saves, ball distribution for his age at that point. I'm not saying for a top level keeper or anything, but for a youth level keeper, fantastic. And that's what Inter saw and got him and loaned him to Parma initially. Again, the only thing with this was when he was loaned out to Spain into Albacete, he didn't even start a game. I don't know what it was. I don't know really. I think they had an experienced goalkeeper over there. But when he went to Real Oviedo in Spain, he started a few games and he was decent. Like again, he's a very young kid, so I'm not going to criticize him heavily or anything. I still expect more from him than I expect from Colidio. Different positions, but expectations are more for me. And Gotham, unfortunately, he was actually going to be loaned out, but he got an ACL injury. Sad
Hmm.
story because again, that's another young player, very talented, Brazilian who wants to prove himself as well. He really wants to grow. He wanted to work, but ACL injury. Just keep staying at Inter until we get a loan spell for him whenever he recovers. And it's a sad case. I honestly, Gotham, before I ask you your opinion, I personally feel he should go into room for improvement. And again, it should not be a comparison with Dumfries. That category is sort of different.
Hmm.
He's a youngster, and it's not that he's been bad. Like it's just that he's too young and raw and has a lot of room to develop. I don't know if he still doesn't belong in the Inter squad. Maybe he doesn't belong in the 21-22 squad. But again, maybe if he gets a loan spell elsewhere, he maybe belongs at Inter in the future. So I don't want to put him at the bottom. What's your take, Gautam? Where do you think he should go?
No, I was going to put him in the bottom and say it doesn't
Wow.
belong. I mean, not for anything else, because he's like,
Hmm.
you're not going to see any minutes. You're taking up a
Hmm.
spot. You are
Hmm.
injured right now.
Hmm.
So why take up a spot which anyone else can take?
But yeah,
It's
I mean,
nothing to
yeah.
do with the talent. It's nothing to do, because there was a lot of hype when we got him.
Hmm.
We are like, oh yeah, he's the successor to Handanovic and stuff like that.
That
But
was too soon, man.
yeah, but now again
Yeah.
with the injury,
Hmm.
this tier list is for the strength of the squad.
Hmm.
Is he adding anything? Is he adding a value to the squad right now?
That that's a good way of looking at it. But again, I think let's. I mean, okay, fine, we put him down at the bottom, but let's not be too harsh in. I mean, what I'm saying is in terms of his potential, because he's not done anything wrong per se. He just poor guy got injured,
Yeah, he
so I
got
think
injured
can't
and
really
tried.
blame him.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
we know Radu is the second in command right now,
yeah,
second choice.
that's a
So he's not
exactly.
going to
And
go.
yeah, and again, we put him at the bottom where we feel currently doesn't belong in the 21-22 Inter squad. Let me
Yeah,
specify that because he can always improve in the future. He might explode, you never know, and he might go and become a first choice keeper. That you never know. We can't see things coming, right? But for the 21-22 season squad, he probably doesn't belong in the Inter squad, and he's not even been registered.
yeah.
To make things right, I took the entire squad from the official website wherein they had him, of course, to not leave anyone out.
Hmm.
So I think you're right. And this is again just to clarify what me and Gotham mean. This is not to be harsh on Brazao. We believe there is potential, but there's a long way to go, and he doesn't really have much to offer in 21-22. And it's sad he has an ACL injury. It's sad because we always want our young players to do well, especially when you see these players come to your country, especially when he was in India. I actually saw him keeping in the stadium and do so well. It's sad to see. So but for now, again, guys, we are not being harsh. We hope for the best for Brazao, but he belongs in the bottom, in our opinion. We feel he's not a part of the Inter.
For this season.
For this season, again, for 21-22, in our opinion, doesn't belong in the Inter squad. We wish him the best for future, and we hope he develops, well, and solves our keeper problems long in the future as well. Why not? Yeah, why not? Of course, that's a thing for the future, and let's see, Gautam. So we move on from Gabriel Brazao. Next, we have Mr. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, got from our city rivals, Gautam, from the red and black half of Milan. Of course, the biggest issue Milan fans have actually pointed out with Hakan, and it is correct. I don't want to not take that into account, is his consistency. He has his moments, he plays well, but the consistency over the season is what they doubt, and we need to see this yet, because we saw this versus Genoa, he did well, but versus Hellas Verona, there was a bit of a dip of sorts. And to Hellas's credit, they did make it hard for him. Martin Hongla kept marking him, but still, there's a long way to go. But again, we got him because we needed an Eriksen replacement immediately, urgently. What do you think he can go offer in terms of the coming season, and how do you rate him so far? Do you think belongs in good or very solid and useful? What do you think?
See, if you're just going by the performance of the first two matches, I would put him in good. But realistically, I would put him in solid and useful because of his past, because of his inconsistencies. What if it disappears like most of the games and only is useful against smaller teams? I mean, we have enough players to be effective against the smaller teams. We need players who are effective against the big clubs. I mean, if he does well this season, maybe we'll put him in good at the end of the season. But right now, because his career has been bit inconsistent. The thing is, you're getting inconsistent performances from him. That's the sad part. If it's if it's like only 1-2 matches inconsistency, no. For sure when you say it's Hakan, he'll be inconsistent.
Yeah. So I think, Gautam, I agree with you, but also again, we are solely going by mainly going by a perception of 21-22. And yes, at the end of the season, we can put him wherever he wants. Either he stays in a certain category, goes up or down. I feel personally he should be in the lower half of good. And again, this is not a bad thing or a very good thing in my opinion. Why I say this is because I feel, Inzaghi Inzaghi also said this. He realizes Hakan doesn't truly realize his own potential. He said this. I think under Inzaghi, maybe he does a bit more. Again, if any Milan fan is listening to this, a lot of my Milan friends watch my channel as well. And they'll be like, what are you saying, right now? Because you used to criticize Hakan a lot as well when he was at Milan as a neutral fan. And I did. I agree. I did. He was inconsistent. We've both pointed this out now. Lots of moments, some moments of brilliance, some moments of absolutely, sort of terrible performances as well. So, but I would still put him in the good lower half of good, Gautam, and I'll tell you why. Because he's still the main Eriksen replacement we are counting on as things stand today. Sensi may overtake later, we don't know what will happen and everything. But as things stand, he has got as the main Eriksen replacement, and Inzaghi needs that Luis Alberto kind of player, and he is counting on Hakan for that. Yes, as you said, Gautam, we don't know if he'll remain consistent going into the season, but then our tier list after that can always change, right?
Yeah, so I was going to say, I was going to say the same thing. I was going to change it to good just because,
but lower
half of good because he's a starter. He's going to start every game.
Yeah,
and he is good, but he has to be consistent to be considered spectacular.
Yeah, and Gautam, again, he's actually still good at set pieces. He hasn't really scored a free kick goal per se since coming to Milan, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he has scored, because at Hamburg back in Germany, I think when he was even at Hamburg and I think Leverkusen, he was known to score a lot of free kick goals, which he didn't really do at Milan. But still, in terms of assisting from free kicks, he was important. So, we still, and I'm not saying he's like a terrible player or a very good player. He's a good player in my opinion. I feel at times Milan fans tend to, highlight too much of negativity on his part, because of course I don't blame them because he did them bad. Like he mistreated them when it came to the contract renewal only for 500k more to get at Inter, and so that is the unfortunate side of things for them, and I get their argument, and I think that's, but still I feel he has a lot to offer under Inzaghi, and he can do with a change of scenery, and I would put him in the lower half of good.
Yeah, I mean, he is good, but you cannot blame him
Yeah.
for leaving Milan
Yeah.
because end of the day, you want to go to the best club in the city. You just don't want to be there.
Nice one over there. Like, of course it's all banter. Now don't hopefully people don't come into the comment section, raging at us. So yeah, that if for Milan is she listening, that's all part of the banter. Please don't get us wrong. Next Gotham coming to Andre Radu, our second choice keeper. Of course, he's now, there are reports coming in that he might give Handanovic a run for his money because Handa is making errors. But last season, what I saw from him, Gotham, in the bare minimum he played, I wasn't entirely convinced because I still felt his reflexes weren't that great per se, even his arm power as well. Like he couldn't keep a few shots out. But I think this guy still has a point to prove. Like he's always enthusiastic, ready to play, and I think training constantly and everything, he will get there. Like I know he's still not on the younger side, but he's not too old as well. But I think he can prove himself and prove to be a decent player or a decent backup or rotational keeper as this for the season to come. Personally, I put him in solid and useful, like in the mid or lower half. What do you think? Where do you think he goes?
See, for me, like when you spoke about last season's performances, for me, it was the perception, was I being too harsh on him or did I expect too much from him? And say that, okay, he didn't perform as well as I expected him to, because in my expectations were too high of him, or was he average altogether? Was he generally average, or did I expect him to be like a Superman and he didn't perform at my level of expectations, which puts the blame on me then, because I expected too much of him.
I get it, because even for Genoa and Parma, he didn't really play a lot per se in his loan spells. He had a few attitude problems over there he caused, and that's why he was benched. So something, I mean, it's different at Inter. He seems to be happy and everything, and he wants to play. But yeah, I personally feel he was decent, Gotham, when he played. Like again, I saw his errors, like the arm strength for
correct. The goals, the arm strength which you mentioned, like that, I don't think that would have been a goal with Handanovic at
that's right. Now people will be like, Handa makes errors, but I think Handa would have saved that, because Handa does tend to at times make, in his prime he used to make a lot of double saves too. But at times, even now that he has regressed, Handa tends to make these, random sudden saves out of nowhere, which you wouldn't expect him to. At times, of course, not always. So that's my worry with Radu. And also his distribution at times is not that great. Like Handanovic, I know that day he versus Hellas Verona, he did mess up, of course. But that's one aspect of his game overall improved, since Conte came in. And I think that's why I think, Gotham, we should go for solid and useful for Andre Radu.
I would have put him in room for improvement, but
okay. That
why? Depends. I mean,
why I was saying, Gotham, because now that you read reports, he's going to give Handa room for his run for his money.
Exactly. So I want to see like, will he actually give him run for his money? Or is it just a thing for Handanovic to like improve, saying that okay, because there are rumors as well that he will replace Handanovic midway through the season.
I mean, if he does, I hope we don't say that we are not going to get Andre Onana, because that would be disastrous if we don't get Onana. Then that would be horrible. But I hope we still get Onana, but that's for a later day. But I think Gotham to be I think I think, because if he could put Dumfries in room for improvement, and he's expected to be a starting right wing back, I think let's put Radu there. I think, and again, this is not heavily critical of Radu. We did point out flaws with Radu and the benefits, as you guys just heard us, but we still believe there's more to come from him, more to improve, especially the arm strength, the ball distribution. And Handa, with the ball distribution, is still that good. He takes it easy. Like, he is patient. He might make his errors. He did it versus Hellas Verona. Can't really trust Handa entirely, but that's our goalkeeper situation, unfortunately. That's how it is. We have to go along with it, manage, hope Andre Onana agrees a contract in January, praying that Beppe Marotta seals the deal in January. No other club comes, and then he comes in June when he's supposed to. So yeah, Gautam, I think room for improvement is right about it. Next, we have the treble winner at Bayern Munich. The sort of journeyman, I would say, not entirely, but experienced campaigner. I think you were supposed to get a signed jersey from him. I don't know if you got it
Yeah.
still. Did you get a signed jersey from Ivan Perisic?
No, I haven't. Even I'm still waiting.
Yeah, I mean, someday maybe if Ivan watches this, of course, you please, Gotham requested you. I think he was very close to getting a signed jersey from you. Yeah, but coming to Mr. Ivan Perisic, honestly, Gotham, I see a lot of flack for Ivan Perisic. And I don't get it. See, I know he's. And first of all, we need to remember he's not a natural left wing back. He's a left midfielder. He's not even
Yeah.
like a proper winger. He's being played as a left wing back. For me, he adjusts in the balance he offers in terms of going forward and defensively, especially defensively. Terms of work rate is fantastic. I think his IQ on the pitch is fantastic. Crossing not so great. He tends to overdo those step overs and then driven cross. That's his signature.
Yeah.
He doesn't know, and that's where DiMarco comes in, of course, to add a different dimension. But what do you make of Perisic? I think he's on the higher end of solid and useful. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to put him in good because
I was leaning towards good, but yeah, sorry, go ahead, give your reason.
Because he does, his crosses do connect with Brozovic. It will connect with Dzeko. It will connect with Lautaro, and he has improved in the position. When he started off, his defensive game wasn't that great, but now he has improved in it, and he's always a threat. He is an attacking threat. So that's why I would put him in good. And we know it's his last season. We know he's leaving after the end of this season.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Gautam, I agree. Sorry, continue.
And he's mature enough to handle situations. He knows when to defend, when to attack, and he knows when to cut inside, and he can link up with Brozovic later on.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree. Like I see so much flack for Perisic. Yes, his crosses don't connect, and at times he's not much of a threat going forward. He's not that fast. I get it. I absolutely understand. At times it's frustrating to watch that. But that's where the competition between Perisic and DiMarco will come in. They will compete with each other. They will add dynamism to the left flank. And I think retaining Perisic when you had no guarantees of getting like Kostic or any other players we were linked with as per DiMarco, Telles, I don't know where that came from. I don't know why Man United would let Telles go even if Shaw is playing well. Why? No, they're not going to do that. And and I feel Perisic is really one of those Mr. Reliables in the team. Like we really can, especially the defensive half of the game, Gautam. Like I really like his reading, and for me, his work rate always stands out. He always puts in 100%. Like I really like that. We loaned him out to Bayern Munich. After that, Bayern were going to buy him. The clubs didn't agree on a fee. But he could have always put a sad face and said, I don't want to play for Inter. I was at a better club at Bayern Munich. I won the treble. Why should I continue playing for Inter? He came back, proved the point. Stayed put, adapted as a left wing back. Conte decided to use him adjust him, fit into the team. Fantastic, worked well, exactly. So why not? I think he belongs in the lower mid half of good, I feel. Just on the same level as Hakan, like I know I've put him behind Hakan over there, but that doesn't mean I think less of him, or I'll just put him above Hakan just because he's been there at Inter for ages and Hakan is new. And this is again, I feel they're almost on like the same category of good, but I just would put Perisic out because he's been a long servant of the club. He might have caused his issues in the past, but that's not what we are looking at right now. So moving on. Oh, the talk of the last few weeks, Mr. Lautaro El Toro Martinez.
I would say he doesn't belong in the squad.
Yeah. I mean, if he goes, if he also would have left Gautam in the window, I would have raged. Because Lautaro now has more responsibility than ever. I feel he will mature with this. He has his moments where he loses cool, tends to get frustrated, goes down too easily. But, I remember watching his one interview where he said, he's been seeing a therapist since his child was born and he's trying to mature in and that's helping him. We've apparently sealed a contract extension with him as per Gianluca Di Marzio. Like it's verbally done once he is back from the international break. It should be done ideal. Hopefully, still fingers crossed, there's no last minute change and it's done and dusted. His agent also said it pretty much, like in his interview recently during the international break, his agent Alejandro Camano
Hmm.
said that Lautaro really wanted to stay. And, we keep hearing this that players want to stay, players want to leave and whatever, but Lautaro was like really committed in this team,
Yeah.
like to staying in the team, especially after Lukaku left. And what Lautaro offers to our game, at times I feel people tend to overlook it. His pressing, Gotham, the best aspect of his game, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Relentlessly keeps pressing, works hard on the pitch, never moans about not wanting to work hard, always gives his 100%. Like might lose his cool, might not be efficient all the time. Of course, we know he needs to still improve his finishing. It has improved. He missed an open goal last season versus Shakhtar that cost us
Yeah.
away from home. But still, what an important part of the project and team. And if he signs that 5-year deal, nothing better than that. I can only think the top tier for Lautaro Martinez.
Yeah.
Nothing else for me.
Same here. Same here as well. And
And
with
I think
17 goals
yeah,
last
sorry.
season from open play with no
Yeah,
penalties.
only one or two penalties, I guess, in there. Only one or two, if I'm not wrong, or even no, if
No
I'm not
penalties.
mistaken.
No penalties
Yeah,
at
no
all.
penalties. My bad. My bad. Sorry, that's on me. And yeah, sorry. Continue, Gautam.
Yeah. So, like you said, people don't understand that Lautaro actually presses. Like his pressing is overlooked most of the time,
Hmm.
and it creates spaces. Like even his link-up play with Korea in the first game,
Hmm. Hmm.
you never like he has improved with Lukaku last season, and this season is going to improve even more. And now he knows that he has to be the leader up front.
Yeah, definitely.
There is no hiding anymore. So this season,
Yeah.
20 goals is what I expect from him.
Yeah, and we may or may not get 20 goals. I agree with you, and I definitely expect him to take more responsibility. I think he's now going to slowly gel into one of the leaders too,
Mm.
because and he has his good buddy with him, Joaquin Correa. Those two. I can't wait to see the partnership overall going into the season. I really hope it works. The other day for Argentina, Lautaro scored, assisted Correa as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic going so far. So far, so good. And I think I can see that increase in maturity in Lautaro too, importance. And also, it's not only the pressing, Gautam. He sacrifices a lot for this team. Last
Yeah.
season, Conte said this. There was this one game I can't remember for which I saw the heat map. Lega Serie A, post like official stats post game, like detailed match report post match,
Mm.
like with heat maps, average positioning. And Lautaro, I can't recall which game this was specifically, but it's describe Lautaro perfectly. He was in the left half space, the deep half of our pitch on the left half space, covering it, defending more than being forward because he
Mm.
was required to sacrifice. And he doesn't complain. He does it willingly, and he wants to be in the pitch. You remember that whole spat with Conte, the
Yeah.
minor spat, Conte subbed him up and then of course, they patched it up later. But yeah, man, this guy is really important. And I hope this whole news of his extension is made official soon. I can't wait. And I hope it is because I see news reports of, the next in line being Barella, Brozovic, Skriniar,
Mm.
DeVrij. So that maybe is a good sign that Lautaro's extension is actually sealed because at times, everyone is saying so, but, until it's official, I don't want to trust anything after what we've been through this Mercato. So really hoping for that official news. And I'm putting him on the top for Calciatore Spettacolare, the top tier, the top
Yeah.
first one to be that Lautaro Martinez. Absolutely well deserved. Next, Gotham. I know this player, you have your criticisms of him, but I think he's very important, Gotham. Like, I know this is one player we disagree on a lot, which is who is Marcelo Brozovic. But Gotham, I know you criticize him at times for, slacking off a bit, but just one of the most important things about it is the distance he covers every game. It's the highest on an average in the
Yeah.
league. Almost every game, doesn't get tired despite his lifestyle as well. Enjoying the smoking and whatnot. And people might question his attitude. When there's chaos at Inter, this guy's posting pictures on the side with find like look teasing Barella, having fun in the pool or whatnot. But coming to his characteristics, Gotham, you know I think his the way he conducts himself on the pitch, the calm composure on the ball,
Mm.
even his distribution, very important, Gautam. And I feel people tend to at times question his loyalty to the club too much. I feel. I know he's not renewed his contract yet. I'm not going to jump the gun. His contract expires next year, and we are working on
Mm.
his renewal. But I feel this guy really is very vital for Inter. Like without him, as the midfield stands, I don't think we can do without him. I mean, if I had to initially give him a rating right off the bat, I am putting him in the higher end of good. What do you think? What's your take on
Yeah,
this?
I would put him in good as well. But the thing with him is like he's so frustrating to watch because you don't know which Brozovic you're going to get. But now here's the thing where I might have been too harsh on him because the season when I was really harsh on him was when he played continuously without any rest. He had no games off and he played like 60 games in a row or something.
Correct.
And that's when he started slacking off, and I got pissed off because you know how much he can offer on the pitch. And when he doesn't do that, you're like, dude, if you're not interested that match, just get out of the pitch. Just don't take up space. Just don't dilly-dally around midfield and misplaced passes. And that's the thing. You have so many misplaced passes from Brozovic when he's not in the mood. When he's half-heartedly passing and stuff like that, he's terrible to watch. But he's frustrating because he's so good. You know what he can do. And then
that's a good way to put it.
When he doesn't do it, that frustrates you even more.
That's a good way to put it, actually. Like, yes, at times when he's man-marked by a more imposing player, like when Kulusevski marked him out when we played UA after winning versus them in all the games. He was frustrating, but he is just so important for them. Because as you said, we know what he can offer, the calm composure, the distance he covers. Without his distance, this team, I don't know, especially in the Conte era, what we would have done, because Conte relies on that distance coverage in the full 90. So I can't think of anything but higher end of good, top end of good for me.
Yeah. He's a really good, top end of good industrious player. But that's like, you always know that if Brozovic is rested for a game, the next game he's man of the match. You know for sure because
he's so good. Yeah, he's so good. You
need to give him rest time. You can't play him like 38 matches. Play him like 7 matches, give him rest, and then make him play again. Because I think he needs and this season especially, I want to see where his mind is with his crypto thing going on and all his other activities. I want to see if his mindset is still in football or does he want to go full time into crypto.
That's just how Brozo is, though, right? Like, he is obviously interested heavily in crypto. He got others to make a video. That was hilarious.
Yeah, and he scored an amazing goal yesterday.
Yesterday versus Slovakia on the volley. Sorry, not volley.
Yeah.
That shows what he can do. And unfortunately, like, it was Skriniar versus Brozovic yesterday, and heartbreak for Skriniar. It was late into the match as well, but he scored a fantastic volley, and we know what he's capable of. He's so well-rounded, and he actually is one of the most underrated players in the world. He doesn't even get enough recognition. Many people tend to overlook Brozovic, and I feel no matter what his character is like, people might call him strange, out of the box. But we don't care about all that person. We don't judge people like that. We care about what he does on the pitch, and he's always been an important player for the years. Spalletti molded him into a very good player. If you remember, he was on his way to Sevilla. He was almost going to get onto the flight or something, and Spalletti blocked it at the last moment. Kudos to him. He transformed Brozovic, and I think without Brozovic.
And we know this season how important midfield is going to be under Simeone.
Definitely. And we need to remember, we don't have a proper vice Brozovic per se. We might use Vidal there, we might use Vecino there at times and all, but there's no proper key characteristic vice Brozovic there. And also, I would like to point this out: when Brozovic last season would get booked during a match, Conte would not even sub him out because he knew how important he was. He needed to have Brozovic on the pitch. But because Vidal has now shown good signs, Simone the other day versus Hellas Verona could immediately get Vidal in to make the difference and not get Brozovic sent off potentially in the process. So, midfield as a whole is going to come important, and Brozovic remains right up there.
Yeah.
Probably the best midfielder we have. Yeah, it has to be the best midfielder we.
He's the best midfielder
and Barella.
With Barella.
With Barella. I mean, they love each other anyways. So, they're a package deal regardless. So, it goes in the top half of good. I know, guys, this video is going on too long just to address it, but this is a tier list, right? This is going to go on long. We have 28 players in the squad, so can't really do much about it. So, hang in there, not long to go. So, next, Gautam, we have Martin Satriano. Talent is there. I luckily managed to get a hold of a lot of Primavera matches last season. very Lautaro-esque, very reminiscent of Lautaro. Presses hard, relentlessly.
Yeah.
Couldn't see that versus Genoa because I think it was more of like the first game for official
Hmm.
game for Inter as a sub. He was afraid, and it's all right.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
you have
front of the
nerves. You have nerves,
yeah,
obviously. It's your
front
first game.
exactly first, especially first time crowd coming back too.
Yeah.
So you know it is, and but the talent is there. Showed it to us in preseason, Gotham. If he can score it versus a Crotone playing in Serie B, I'm sure he can do it. Needs to be molded, but very reminiscent of Lautaro. And people tend to overlook this one thing. People think he's short. This guy is 6 foot, 6'1", by the way.
Yeah.
So you know he can get there. And the idea, as per reports right now, is Gotham is Inzaghi wanted to keep him because he sees his
Hmm.
talent. He sees he can be molded, but he will assess him until January. So he'll have to see how much time he gets and how much he plays until January. If he doesn't play, he'll be loaned out, which is anyways good for him.
Hmm.
Let's hope he can develop well if he doesn't get to play much or he plays a lot. What are your expectations? Where do you think he ranks? I feel he straight away goes to room for improvement. What's your
Yeah,
take?
room for improvement, and I
Yeah.
have very high expectations from him this season.
Yeah, as a talent, yeah, exactly. Let's specify that. As a talent,
He's not a Pinamonti. I
yeah.
expect goals from him.
Forget Pinamonti. I'm sorry, but he's better than Pinamonti. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. If I know this one Inter fan, a friend of mine from an Inter global group. His name is Virgil, if I'm not mistaken. He's from Ghana, and for some reason he loves Pinamonti. I don't know why. If you're watching this, I'm not. I'm just having a bit of banter here. But I mean, sorry, Virgil, but you know, Pinamonti, Satriano is far better. I'm sorry.
He's better.
It is-
And
yeah,
and he looks ready. He has
Yeah.
the hunger, and he looks ready
yeah,
to be in the first team. It's very
Yeah.
rare
And-
when you
and-
find someone who's like
yeah,
come out of Primavera
Hmm.
squad and is already ready, and
Yeah.
people expect him to score
yeah,
goals.
yeah, exactly. And I was just reading this report the other day, Gautam, as per reliable journalist Simone Tonia, if I've not got his name right. He's a reliable journalist for Inter. He was saying Satriano might have a key role somewhere or the other versus Sampdoria, which is not too far away. Because just to put this out as general news for all Interists here and everyone watching, our South American players are going to return from their international duty pretty late.
Hmm.
And then our kickoff versus Sampdoria is at lunchtime in Italy. So they won't have a lot of time to recover, which is again a downside. So we might go back to a 3-5-1-1 with Sensi behind Dzeko. And there's no other South Americans starting anyway. But all South Americans in that particular match might have to contribute off the bench than starting, even Lautaro. So I think it's apart from Satriano, of course, I think I'm hearing that either he could start or have a major role off the bench too. So let's see. And as you said, Gautam, I don't know if he'll start a lot, like because we're overloaded on strikers. That's it. Like
Yeah.
we have a lot. It's 5 strikers. Like last season, we were like, we need a 4th striker. Now we have like 6 strikers. Of course, just including Colidio for numbers here, but 6 now. Like that's a double from what we had last season
Yeah.
practically. And Satriani obviously has more chances than Colidio, but yeah, and again, why we have put him in room for improvement is not anything negative about Satriano. Just to put this out, he's young, yet to be molded. Reminds me a lot of Lautaro Martinez, hard worker. Needs to gel into the team. I really hope he can. And come January, if we have to loan him, so be it. It's only good for his development. We need players coming from our Primavera team. And just Gautam, before I wrap up, Satriano, our Champions League list was posted by Inter the other day, and Satriano was the only one left out. The
Yeah.
reason being, people are thinking he was left out because he's not good and all. But there is actually a criteria to follow when you register players. You can't just register anyone for fun. So the reason was that we needed one more homegrown player in the list. We only have Radu, DiMarco, and if I'm not wrong, Cordaz. Yeah, 3 of these. We needed one more to have a 25th slot to put Satriano. So assuming Perisic, this is just hypothetical situation. If Perisic was a homegrown player, we would have been able to add one more player into the squad for list A. That is for list A, which is the main list. But unfortunately, we don't have one more homegrown player amongst the existing registered team. We can't include Satriano.
Yeah.
List B, which is more for youngsters, Satriano unfortunately can't be registered because you need to have spent 2 years with the Primavera team. He's only spent 1 because he was actually signed from I think Peñarol, if I'm not mistaken. Again, if I've got that wrong, I'm sorry. From South America, if I've got that wrong, apologies. But yeah, so unfortunately, Satriano can't be registered, and that's the sad part. And yeah, let's hope he can play more in the Serie A and Coppa Italia. Next, moving on, Gautam, let's go quickly now. Matthias Vecino. I feel this guy has a crucial role to play under Simone Inzaghi.
Yeah. I would put him in,
Very crucial.
yeah, solid and
Yeah.
useful, similar to
Definitely.
Ambrosio. Like he defines solid and useful.
Yeah, I
He
think I would
won't-
put him up after Vidal, like because just before you continue, Gautam, because he was injured for most part of last season. It was a very big injury, going to get sold. But once he came back in those bare minimum games he played under Conte, he showed really good signs. And we know
Yeah.
Vecino can score a goal or two. It's his height, it's his runs. Can be a bit clumsy defensively at times, but higher up the pitch, he's far better than he's deep in
you
his
don't.
own.
Yeah, sometimes you don't expect him to make runs, and he makes those runs, and he either gets an assist or a goal. So he is useful.
Yeah, and he's going to score a lot. I feel I'm not going to make this prediction, but I feel he's one player who can score with his headers running into the box too. He scored in a preseason versus Dynamo Kiev, I think it was as well. If I'm not mistaken, or was it versus Parma? If I'm not mistaken, sorry if I can't recall that, but yeah, I think as you said, solid and useful is the perfect category for him. I think right above DiMarco and below Vidal because Simone, if you read reports, he loves Matthias Vecino. No chance he's going to be sold under Simone Inzaghi. And we know, Vecino isn't a bad player per se. He's just a pretty decent player.
Yeah.
The defensive half of the game, he can improve in his own half. But going forward, this guy is crazy. Like those runs he makes, imposing runs.
Exactly.
Might not be the best. Might not be the best crosser of the ball. But heading wise, his heading also and his slightly imposing presence, he's good. I mean, he's the one who got us into the Champions League after all. We've seen him. So, solid and useful is right about it. Next, Mr. Ever Reliable Matteo Darmian. Man, this guy is so good. Like, I don't know. Like, the debate for me here is I think he belongs in good, like, personally. I still feel like I know I might be, taking my chance here and exaggerating. I don't know if that's what you guys feel or you think as well, Gautam. But this guy, when he first came into the club, the amount of abuse he got on social media, uncalled for. But since then, just the Conte type of player, jack of all trades, right back, right wing back, right centre back, left centre back, left wing back. Tell him to play anywhere in the defense, he will play without complaining. That's him. Always ready for the team, always ready to give it his all. And why we call him Mr. Reliable, always puts in a decent shift. Only one bad game I ever remember him having was versus Juventus away when we lost last season. One of the bad games I remember him having. That's all I remember properly of him not being that good. Either it was decent or good. That's all. And in the start to the season has been fantastic for him. Versus Genoa, versus Hellas Verona. My God, he was so good. He saved us in the first half practically. So Gautam, what are your expectations from him and where do you rank him? I mean, I can only see good for him. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd put him in good as well. The lower half of good.
Lower half.
Lower half of good
definitely.
Because if a guy can bench Hakimi initially, I mean, you have to be good.
Yeah, definitely.
I think again, it's like people expect too much of him, even though he delivers. Either it is like you expect him to be world class, which is not. But he's not average. He is a good player. He is useful. He knows what he's doing. And he's, especially when he comes off the bench sometimes, like he's practically ruling his side of the pitch.
You could say that, he's just that sort of player who will show his maturity, calm, composure, always do something for the team, like never ever go for individual glory per se, like anywhere, be it off the pitch, on the pitch, always ready for his coach. Perfect guy we need. And especially we need him to step up now that even Ashley Young is gone. And why I bring up Ashley Young? Because Ashley Young was decent in his stint and he played both left wing back and right wing back. So Darmian now needs to step up. Even DiMarco will have to be a bit more versatile. All these factors come into play. And I feel, he's Mr. Ever Reliable. And I just so happy he settled in. Like, after he came in, people are like, what are we doing? From like, of course, the deal was a synergy deal with Parma where they got him from Man United. And then the agreement was for us to sign him at the end of the season, which we did. And I am satisfied, honestly. He proved his critics wrong. Happy for him. People were expecting Darmian to be a very top class defender back in the day, but it unfortunately never turned out. But so far, he's doing justice to his role and very happy for him.
I think
it's
his past that haunts him right now. Like because of his past, people expected too much of him. He didn't live up to that expectation. And
Yeah,
now
yeah.
they expect him to be mediocre, which is not.
Yeah, and guys, just some people might wonder, of course, you guys have watched the video so far, but you might see Alexis in the top half of solid and useful, and then Darmian and the lower half of good. That we've already given the context. Don't take this in the wrong way. Like, this is just our perception. You can feel free to agree, disagree. Just leave everything in the comments below. Of course. So yeah, that's why we feel Darmian belongs to the lower half of good, because he's just so reliable. Just so dependable. Always there, ready for the coach as well, and yeah, ready to play any role. So Gotham, moving on. Mr. Milan Skriniar. I don't think we of course discussed Skriniar, but I think he goes like
Full
right
top.
above Bastoni.
We know he's the
Yeah.
future captain.
I hope so. Of course, I wouldn't mind if it was Barella, but I prefer Skriniar. But yeah, I think he goes. So guys, he goes right into Calciatore Spettacolare, below Lautaro, above Bastoni. And Gautam, let's begin with this. Skriniar used to struggle in the back three in 1920 to the point he was benched and could have left. And I'm so glad he did, because the man has practically fired his agent to renew his contract. In a day and age where we see players saying they want to stay at the club, but yet they don't really renew their contract, and then they end up leaving the club without sacking their agent. Skriniar has done it, and I hope he can stay for years to come. And I hope the management also considers his contract renewal soon, because it's up in 2023. Let's not forget he had signed an extension, but it was 2 years ago, not like last year or something. So we still need to renew his contract. Let's hope the management does it in the future. He deserves to be captain, in my opinion. Proper leader. The way he came back to adapt in that back three, Gotham, back three, back five, whatever you want to call it, fantastic. He used to struggle practically. I remember that match versus Hellas where he got destroyed by Marco Davide Ferraoni in 1920. Absolutely destroyed in the first minute. And he used to play as a left centre back ideally at times, which was not his position. He's more better on the right. But fantastic, leader, back to scoring goals, headers, always there for the team. He said when Conte left, I was ready to stay. Spurs had come back for Skriniar in a way to again try and sign him, but he wants to stay at Inter. Absolutely. This is who I want as my captain. His interceptions, you remember that interception on Korea last season?
Yeah.
That fantastic clean block. So clean, like I've not seen one in ages. Like, of course, I've seen amazing blocks, but that was so clean. What's your take, Gotham? Of course, we've already put him in Calciatore Spettacolare, but what's your take on him? Like, do you think he's definitely going to be?
Yeah, for me, he's a world-class defender. And
yeah, definitely.
He's so vocal. He's not only a leader on the pitch, I think he's a leader off the pitch. He keeps the group together. And he scored the first goal of the season for us.
Yeah.
And you see that he pushes players. He doesn't let anyone rest. He doesn't rest for 90 minutes. He doesn't let anyone else rest for 90 minutes. If Handanovic makes a mistake, he gives it back to Handanovic. He's vocal. His leadership is immense. And that block on Korea was like, even now, I think Korea, that's why he joined it. Like, I'd rather be on the Skriniar side.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather learn. He must be saying I'd rather come to Inter training and learn how to evade that block than be against and season out. Yeah. But yeah, I got him, like, fantastic guy, like the way he showed commitment. Like, Conte benched him to the point where he was starting Ambrosio in a Europa League final. That's what probably cost us as well. And, I just can't be praise him more.
That also shows the character of Skriniar, because some people, when you're so important to the team and next time a coach comes and he benches you, you either go down on morale and be like, I want to leave, or you be like, you know what, I'm going to prove myself to the new coach and be indispensable again. And that's what he did. And now he's the leader.
He's the leader. He's so solid at the back. Good communication. The entire back three has gelled so well. Of course, we have to assess DeVrij yet. We'll come to that. But such a perfect back line. So happy. And his ball distribution is good. Headers, we've all highlighted it. And
that's the thing. That's the thing which, like, people who don't watch Skriniar don't know. Like, he's an amazing mover of the ball. He's amazing at his feet.
Especially at dribbling and making those direct straight runs. Which he does. He's really good at that. And we have DeVrij to complement with his passes, and so does Bastoni. So it's just the perfect backline we have now, and I really hope we can retain this next season and for the future to come. I really hope, fingers crossed for that. But for now, the tier list, Skriniar goes right in Calciatore Spettacolare. on the same level as Lautaro for me in terms of importance, and Bastoni. And yeah, I mean, you can't, once you put them in the top tier, it's hard to
It's
separate them as well. It's really hard. Again, next one we have Nicolo Barella. I think he also goes right up
go
there. I think, like,
right on top. Yeah, it doesn't
yeah,
matter
right on
where
top.
on
Like,
top. It's all the same
yeah,
on top.
yeah,
Once you're
you're
on
on
top,
top.
it's
Yeah, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, exactly. I mean, so yeah, we've now ranked Nicolo Barella at Calciatore Spettacolare. Again, Nicolo Barella signed in 1920 on Conte's demand. Interista, again, no jokes, Interista for life. You must have seen his childhood pic, celebrating one of his birthdays as a kid in an Inter kit. And yeah, fantastic development. In the early half of 1920, he was still adapting, but then since he's worked on his physique, matured more, he tends to be a bit too reckless, goes flying into tackles at times in a silly way, but has matured, works hard. End of 2021, he sort of had a dip because he was overworked. He barely got any rest. I remember our videos back then clearly. We used to we used to beg for him to get rest from Conte, but he never really had a natural backup per se. Vidal wasn't up to shape, always injured. But yeah, I mean, he's so important. His energy, Gautam, on the pitch, box to box energy.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, his passing also, his crossing is pretty good. His passing too. I remember, he can also have moments of individual brilliance. You remember that assist for Lautaro versus Real Madrid away,
Hmm.
that back flick he did. He just is so complete, hard worker. Maybe you could say he needs to be less reckless, but he can even score goals from outside the box. Yeah, of course, heading is not his strength, but you can see his height too. It's not easy for him to head goals
Yeah.
in. But yeah, man, just so fantastic. What I mean, he goes into Calciatore Spettacolare, and do you think he's going to give Bros a run for his money to fight for that best midfielder spot? What do you think?
I think he's already beaten Brozovic for the best midfielder spot because I
Okay.
consider him like a complete midfielder. He
Hmm.
does it all. The only thing is like I don't think he's ready for captaincy just yet. I think he needs
Yeah,
to be a bit
agree.
more older.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
apart from that, his commitment to the game, like he doesn't
Hmm.
give up
Yeah.
all 90 minutes. He has the vision. He sees players. His passes are there. He's a goal threat. He might be an aerial threat. We never know if he's an aerial threat. I think this
Hmm.
season we'll get to know because this season he'll
Yeah.
have a lot more important role to play than last season. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. And also with Barella is that see, heading really, you can't really put it down to him because he's not that, he's just a tad bit shorter. It's not easy for him to head
Yeah.
the ball in, and it's all right. Like, but he's so complete. Like, he's for like I mean his touches. The assist he got versus Genoa the other day for Vidal, that cheeky back heel which
Yeah.
he did. Yeah, so he's just matured so much as a player. He's grown in these 1.5, 2 years so well, and yeah, top player, calciatore spettacolare, rightfully so, goes into the top. Next, we have the most important player, the most talked about player at Inter. Yes, guys, I'm talking about Roberto Gagliardini. Gautam, where do we put this guy? Controversial figure. Some people, of course, most majority of the people think he's not that good and want him sold.
Hmm.
Some people think he's definitely handy. You know what, Gautam, just before I ask you your opinion, I think, yes, I don't think he's like Inter caliber to start in week in, week out. And we saw that when Conte used to start him in 2021 and
Hmm.
1920 at times. But I don't think he's that bad as people say. Like, they get frustrated and make jokes of him because the open goal he missed was a Sassuolo. And then after that, he was having a laugh about it, auctioning that jersey and all that
Hmm.
nonsense. But he's not that bad. Like, versus the small teams, if you go back and check his record versus Genoa and Sampdoria, he always scores versus the those two Genoese clubs, and we always
Yeah.
win those two games. And he's back to group training, by the way, just to give an update. He's returned to group training timely because of the South American situation I just highlighted before. We need all the help we can get. But yeah, coming back to it, again, Gagliardini returns versus Sampdoria. If he scores, we're pretty much going to hopefully win that match. Hopefully. But yeah, Gautam, what do you make of him? Because he's a highly controversial player, most polarizing player for me in the team. Not most, okay, not most, but he definitely is. Do you
Hmm.
think he's useful, or do you think he doesn't belong in this squad, or what do you think?
I would never say like he doesn't belong in the squad. I would put him
Yeah,
in solid
yeah,
and useful. But
yeah. Or
the,
yeah, look,
the, yeah, yeah. So that's the thing. Like end of the season, I am afraid that we might have to demote him to average. But
hmm.
that's the thing. Like when he scores, it's random out of the blue. Some random matches he just performs, and you're like,
Yeah,
when he performs,
yeah,
the thing is like when he performs, it's a shocker. It's not like, oh, we expected him to perform. When he performs, like, oh, he performed, like he scored a goal, he assisted. Hey, you know what? Gagliardini didn't make any mistakes today. So that's a shock. Like whenever Barella makes a mistake, it's like, oh, Barella made a mistake. That's a shocker. With Gagliardini, it's opposite. Oh, he did make a mistake. He actually is useful.
And also, this is my confusion as a lower half of solid and useful, top half of average. I think I'll put him in the lower half of solid and useful, like on the same level as Ranocchia of sorts. And I'm not comparing them directly. Don't get me wrong. But what I feel is, Gotham, like in the small games, you need your rotational players to come in and step up. And there's no disrespect to teams or mid-table or lower level teams. There's no disrespect. But you need to rotate. You need to maintain balance. And I think that's where he can step in. As you said, he scores these random goals, random moments of good moments. Like I remember away to Sassuolo last season, that's when he had just begun our revival last season.
Was that the volley? So he scored a volley randomly.
The volley out of nowhere. I'm like, how has this guy scored a volley? Like how? This guy versus the same team the season before missed an open goal from 4 yards, but now you're telling me he scores a volley. Hilarious. And that is when we began our revival, if you remember, to win the Scudetto, that match after being knocked out of the Champions League. So yeah, he's a polarizing player, but I don't think he's as, people say he's shit or he's worthless, should be sold. But let's not forget, Gotham, it's not easy to find players who are willing to accept a bench role too. Correct. That's what these players like Gagliardini, D'Ambrosio do. They accept these roles. And this is my main worry going into the future. Once these guys get older, their contracts expire, who will we find to replace these guys? Yes, younger players, I get it. Yes, fine. But what if those younger, that's a worry and talk for another video as well, of course. But what if those players don't develop into the useful backup players as well, right? We don't know. That is exactly why I always said in the Mercato, try to retain the squad as much as you can. Don't chop and change unnecessarily, even if it's players like Gagliardini, Kolarov even. I know we've put him in the bottom category, but still, when you don't have finance, you can't really do much. Ranocchia, D'Ambrosio. Ranocchia was close to leaving before last season, before the last season began.
Ranocchia has been leaving since 2015, I guess.
Exactly. And this is what I say, that it's important to find players who accept a bench role, and that's what Gagliardini does. He's not going to complain about that, right? He's not going to. And this is why that factor makes it kind of important. I don't think he's as shit as people think he is.
The thing with Gagliardini is he's a starter for mid-table clubs, but not a tender.
Definitely. No, definitely not, and I agree. But he still has that bit of importance, I feel. And please, people, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't love Gagliardini or anything like all of a sudden. But you need to check if this guy can, like as I just pointed out, whenever he scores or plays versus both the Genoese clubs, which is Genoa and Sampdoria, we end up winning those games. Now, how important is that? Because Sampdoria are not an easy team to play. We play them next away at the Marassi, always hard versus Sampdoria. We had a bad record versus Genoa before Conte came in. We weren't winning versus Genoa.
But this was a bad Genoa side anyway. So
that's what I'm saying. These kind of records, bad Genoa side anyways. I agree. But these players play their role, make a difference versus the mid-table to lower table teams. Exactly why they're needed and why we have put him in solid and in the bottom end. Next, guys, don't worry, we're going to wrap this up soon. Next, we have Samir Handanovic.
I put him in average.
Just before we put him in the category, guys, it pains me to do so. Like, it really does.
Yeah.
He is the higher end of average, above like, I put him in solid and useful by mistake. My bad. But yeah, he goes at the top end of average and way better than Alex Cordaz. Don't get me wrong. Don't get us wrong that he's close to Alex Cordaz or anything. He's way better. So Gotham, let's come to Handanovic and get into this quickly. See, it really pains me to do this. And, some people might bash us immediately, abuse us if they see this. Like, what are you doing? You're putting your club legend in average. He's your club legend. He's been with you through the hard times and the good times. How can you do this to him? But we are going by performance, guys and girls, whatever it is. It's not easy to see this. Like, I love Samir Handanovic. Like, he saved us in the banter era. He's made some top saves, double saves, but it's sad to see how he has fallen, Gotham. You saw the error versus Hellas Verona, brain fade. You see that, and he made an error versus Hellas Verona last season too. Last to last season away, when he just dropped the ball and Illich scored. He went to catch it versus Torino when Belotti scored last to last season. And he just has these brain-fed moments. He just does, biggest complaint by many fans, doesn't come off his line to save, just watches, waits for defenders to do something, blames others more often. Like I remember him throwing Lukaku under the bus for no reason after one match, and that's not the sign of a good captain. And while I always felt Handa was not the perfect captain replacement, but we didn't really have anyone ready at that point. You can't make Brozovic the captain, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and he did a fairly decent job as captain, but it's just sad to see how he's regressed. His ball playing is decent,
See, that's the
but
thing. It's nothing against Handanovic. Age has just
yeah,
caught up to him. That's it. He was
yeah, that,
fantastic. Now his age has caught up and he's not that agile. And that is
yeah,
fine. We are not saying like he's a bad keeper. We are saying like right now he's become average because when you compare to other keepers, he's not on that level anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And guys, don't get us wrong. We don't dislike Samir Handanovic. We don't hate him. Absolutely love the guy, club legend. He'll always go down as one. You might read it as him winning only one trophy. We don't know what happens this season, but whatever it is, he's always been there through the hard times, through the shittiest of teams. Sorry to say, use that word, but yeah, he has been through it. He's
Like
been through Juan. He has been through Juan Jesus in front of him in defense. So please, he deserves the respect. Yeah, sorry, Gautam.
yeah. So no, I was saying like when Handanovic came in, he replaced Julio Cesar, who is a club legend.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
now it's
And
time for Handanovic to
yeah.
go. Like he has to accept it. Like now he has become the Julio Cesar of the team right now.
Yeah, and definitely, and we're not saying he should be sold or we terminate his contract. I think he has one more year left on his deal. He can always still act as a backup for one more season at least, or two more
Yeah.
seasons as a backup, decent backup. Whoever be our new keeper. Hopefully, again, I hope it's Andre Onana. I really hope.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, we'll see that.
See,
But yeah,
if Handanovic was a backup right now this season, I would have put him in solid and useful instead of average.
yeah,
Just because
exactly. That's context.
yeah,
Yeah,
just because he's
context matters.
starting this season, I'm putting him in average.
Again, as you see here, guys, context is important. Gautam has pointed this out rightly. So, and a lot of fellow interies, he pointed this out to me on a global group. A guy called his username is Mr. Anderson. So I'm assuming that's one of his last name or something. He said that we can definitely be there for the Scudetto race. But what he worries, and he said this last season to me as well, is the amount of errors Handanovic makes. That could be the difference. If Handa hadn't made certain errors, we would have sealed the Scudetto before as well. It's likely. So that could be the difference and this season is going to be much more competitive. So that could be the difference between us winning a Scudetto or not. Yeah, we never know.
Yeah.
So definitely, it pains us to do this, but Handa has to be the top end of average, way better than Alex Cordaz. And we don't mean this as disrespect. We absolutely love the guy, club legend, but it's sad to put him there. It is what it is in our opinion, at least. And he will go down as one of the greats of the club. Might win only one trophy at the end of his career. We don't know all that, but yeah, club legend for sure. But sadly, top end of average, Gautam. And again, sorry, just to wrap up, there's no disrespect, guys. Nothing personal. It is solely based on performances. So yeah, moving on. Last two players, Gautam. Stefan DeVrij goes into Calciatore. Yeah, right on top. As we said, I remember saying this in one of our older videos, Gautam. This defense unit is just too good at as one. It's hard to rank them separately because they each offer their own thing. Defensively, and they're so good as a unit. And DeVrij, man, he is so good. It's hard to believe we got this guy on a free. It's so hard to believe that. Yeah. I mean, and thanks for his tackle versus Lazio, which got us into the Champions League. But he is so good, Gautam. He won the Serie A Best Defender in 1920. Rightly so. He was the best, better than Skriniar because Skriniar was still adapting to the back three. Bastoni was new, gelling in. Of course, Godin never fully gelled in. But yeah, he's so calm and composed, Gautam. I watched him yesterday versus Montenegro. Had one lapse at the back, but again, overall, the most to receive the ball, most to distribute the ball. So calm and composed, Gautam. So mature. And silent leader in my just before silent leader.
That's what I was going to say. Like he's not as vocal as Skriniar, but he's very silent. He lets the football do the talking.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Gautam.
No, he's a leader in his own right. He might not be as vocal as Skriniar, but the unit together, three of them, Bastoni, Skriniar, and DeVrij, it's like the chemistry works so well. They know each other so well. They cover each other so well. And DeVrij is someone who's like, he can give you goals a season as well.
Yeah, and his ability to play out of the back under while being pressed,
Yeah,
fantastic. I mean, all three do it well, but I feel while being pressed, DeVrij is the best at doing that in terms of maintaining composure and his passing ability. While Bastoni has great passing ability, at times he might lose a bit composure here and there, and that's because he's young.
yeah,
He's still to grow. We need to know that as well. Skriniar is a rugged defender, uses his physicality to get off these situations. All are very unique in their own way. And yeah, DeVrij is unique, fantastic. And don't get me wrong in saying this, he reminds me sort of Zanetti in just being terms of a silent leader of sorts,
yeah,
not that vocal leader. That's why I like him. Sort of reminds me, not entirely. So don't get me wrong, whoever's listening. But yeah, definitely Calciatore Spettacolare right up there. We've put him alongside Skriniar, Bastoni, rightly so. Not much more to say, Gautam. He's just too good, and I'm
yeah.
finally glad to see he's getting more game time for Netherlands because earlier he didn't. Just before you get to you, Gautam, Louis van Gaal is of course the head coach of the Netherlands again, and he said this before his interview. He said DeVrij will start, but one of De Ligt or Van Dijk would get benched, and of course Van Dijk got benched. He
Yeah.
played Van Dijk and DeVrij, but he benched De Ligt before that, before they
Hmm.
faced Montenegro versus Norway when they drew. Yeah, so you see, DeVrij is really important, and he's finally getting the chances he deserves. Sorry, Gautam,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. So that's what I was saying. Like it's good for Bastoni as well that he has these two guys next to them to
Yeah,
learn. Like DeVrij,
definitely, absolutely.
yeah. So that's the
Yeah,
thing. Like
sorry.
with him, you get that solid defender, and you never see him sliding or being spectacular because he gets his positioning right. When you
Yeah,
have your positioning right, you
exactly,
don't need to be
exactly.
spectacular.
Exactly. Yeah, something you pointed out very important. His positioning is fantastic. Yes, at times he does, you know, at times, like very few times he does drift out,
Yeah,
but nah, he's fantastic overall. Like we all know this. Whoever watches Inter on a more consistent basis, you have to know he's a fantastic defender. So that's it, guys. We're on one last player now. Bear with us, Mr. Stefano Sensi. As jokes, people call him Mr. Glass,
that's
and everything whatnot. They say he's as fragile as glass or whatnot. But I truly feel bad for this guy. The amount of guys see, people need to understand one thing: the amount of the amount of injuries he's incurred and the amount of toll it takes on his mental health is a lot. People make fun of him here and there, criticize him for being injured. We need to understand it takes a mental toll. It then becomes harder to return to the pitch just because you know that you could get injured more again, having been injured so often, right, Gotham? And
yeah,
we all know when he's fit, he is fantastic. He might not have been the best player versus one of not been okay, decent at best versus Genoa, but his technical ability, distribution of the ball, not afraid to take on players even of his a sort of a shorter stature as well. He's not afraid. He does try shots from outside of the box, if you recall this. Like he doesn't
yeah.
shy away from that too. He is definitely a very good player in my opinion. Remain fit, and this guy is definitely going to give Hakan a run for his money in my opinion, or even one of the strikers in it for a 3-5-1-1 because Simone is more versatile. He might play a 3-5-1-1. I lean towards putting him in good, like a higher end of good, not even
Yeah,
mid. Like I feel like
correct.
right up there, yeah, right above, like sort of there with Perisic and Dzeko. What do you
Hmm.
think? Expectations for the season? How vital do you think he is, and do you think do you hope, do you think finally he can remain fit or not?
I,
Like for a
the,
more,
the hope for the season is he stays fit.
yeah,
That's the only
yeah,
hope for the season. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I would put him in good as well because I haven't seen that much to put him in the top tier right now. I mean, he has to stay
mm,
fit. He has to be consistent. But the thing
mm,
is, like, we know he is world class. We know he has the potential to like change matches on his own. The thing is, can he stay fit for the entire season?
mm,
That's
mm,
the main worry right now. It's not about his talent. It's not about what he can give on the pitch. It's all about his fitness right now. If he can
mm,
stay fit, then he's
mm.
going to play behind Dzeko, and
Definitely, yeah,
and he and he'll be useful there. It's not about his talent or his ability at all this season. It's about can he keep himself fit.
indeed, and his fitness and others' fitness is going to be key for this squad depth because yes, we lost Lukaku, we lost Hakimi, but the squad depth we have retained is still good. Yes, you can have concerns for the goalkeeping position and maybe a backup centre back to an extent,
Hmm.
but the squad in midfield and attack still, the depth we have allows us to change formation from 3-5-2 to 3-5-1-1, adjust our 11 accordingly, adjust for the depth accordingly. And Sensi guys, amazing player technically. The switch of play with passing. first touch on the ball. He
Hmm.
really is good and he can take it to players too. Don't get fooled by his height or anything. And height doesn't always matter in every, like, on the pitch at all times. You can be the shortest player, but you can still be brilliant. You know, take example of someone like Chicharito, if you guys remember. Just to, not, of course, not at Inter, nothing to do with Inter, but one of the most explosive and really good players. I loved watching. So, just to relate to an example in that sense. And I feel Sensi Gotham, as you said, the hope is he remains fit, and I really hope he can, because he will definitely be vital this season. I'm so glad he was
Yeah,
not loaned or sold. I heard many people in history saying, "I loan this guy away to Fiorentina," but for what? You're just losing us. You're just losing your squad depth and not getting anyone to replace. Loan for what exactly? It makes no
yeah,
sense. Like, you're just reducing your squad depth in the time where you need it. You know that you have never got out of the Champions League group stage since you have qualified. Needs depth for 3 competitions. Perfect. We need him, and I really hope he can stay fit, because he's definitely on his day one of the best players in the squad. Like, I would
exactly.
go as far as saying top 8 players as well. Like,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's a
even
bold.
yeah, even last season, if he stayed fit, we were always talking about a Sensi, Barella, Brozovic midfield,
Hmm,
which will be like
exactly.
insane midfield to have.
That was the midfield contest started and did so
Yeah,
well. And of course, because of his unfortunate injury, it fell apart. And since then, he's been injured. But let's hope for the best. And yes, guys, it's always good to make jokes and have fun. But Sensi, because I say this because Sensi was personally targeted on social media with a lot
hmm,
of hate because of his injuries. You don't target someone because they get injured. That's something
injured.
unfortunate. Yeah, maybe we don't know his lifestyle and everything, but that's not for us to comment because we don't know about it. So if he gets injured, rather than causing more, stress to his mental health, rather back him, because these injuries take a toll on players mentally. He's your player after all. Why criticize him? He's your player. I know we of course are supposed to be critical as fans, but not to that extent that we make it personal. Right? They're footballers after all. So that's for Sensi Gotham. And yeah, I think I really hope he can stay fit. And if he does, high expectations for the season. I think that's where he rightly belongs. So
Yep.
guys, we have wrapped up the tier list. I'll just go through the tier list, read the names out quickly, review it quickly, Gotham,
Yep.
and then we'll wrap it up. So I'll start from the bottom. So the bottom tier, guys, as you can see, doesn't belong in the Inter squad. We have Gabriel Brazao, Alexander Kolarov, Facundo Colidio at the bottom. We've mentioned the reasons already. I'm not going to mention them again. Then higher up above that, we have room for improvement players, we believe, who haven't been fully assessed yet at Inter or can still grow and can offer a lot. Denzel Dumfries. Oh, don't roll your eyes if you've just joined in. We've given our reasons before. Uh, Ionet Andre Radu, of course, we gave our reasons again. Martin Satriano. Above that, average. Samir Handanovic, pains us to say this. Samir Handanovic with a huge lead over Alex Cordaz. No, nowhere close. Okay. So yeah, again, don't get us wrong. Above average, we have solid and useful. Mr. Alexis Sanchez, King Arturo Vidal, Matthias Vecino, Federico DiMarco, Danilo D'Ambrosio, Roberto Gagliardini, and Andrea Ranocchia. Above that, we have good, with Marcelo Brozovic topping it, Joaquin Correa, Edin Dzeko, Stefano Sensi, Ivan Perisic, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, and Matteo Darmian. Yeah, because he's Mr. Ever Reliable, of course. At the top, spectacular footballer Calciatore Spettacolare. We have Lautaro Martinez at the top. We feel he's going to have a very important role. He's going to take more responsibility, and we are officially waiting for his contract renewal desperately. So glad he stayed. Milan Skriniar, Stefan DeVrij, Alessandro Bastoni next. Our backline, our fantastic backline. Let's hope they can stay for years to come. Then a future captain in the discussion along with Skriniar, Nicolo Barella. Fantastic development. Love the guy to bits. Interista to his heart. Yeah, definitely hope he also extends his contract. Then we have last but not the least, we have Mr. Christian Eriksen. We are sad what happened to him, but of course his health matters first, as we pointed out, and we really hope we can see him in an Inter shirt again. If he comes back, that squad depth is going to be crazy, Gotham. Like, if he ever comes back,
Yeah.
we are going to have an insane squad. So let's hope for the best for Eriksen. But yeah, guys, as you can see, this is the final image of our tier list. This is our perception of how Inter looks like as things stand. Again, as pointed out before, at the end of the season, we will be making a tier list as well. That will be more dependent on our perception of how the team performs at the end of the season based on how where we have finished. Hopefully, Scudetto, if not, hopefully top four too. Like, outside top four would be shambles if that happens. But let's hope top 4 or Scudetto, anything will do. But yeah, we will be comparing this tier list of our expectations going into the season to what happens at the end of the season. We'll see how much we got wrong and how spot on we were. We'll probably have a laugh then about how wrong we were if we are. Maybe, if Kolarov somehow surprises us and says that, watches this video and says, you guys need to shut up, and I'm probably going to be in the good category. So yeah, be it. I mean, it's good if he proves us wrong. So yeah, guys, that was our tier list. I made this tier list yesterday thinking that there was none for the current season. So go ahead and feel free to use this and make your own tier list and post it on Twitter and Instagram on our accounts. We would love, I mean, not Twitter because you can't post images on Insta, but yeah, feel free to share this. Feel free to share this with us. Tag us when you share this on your Insta story or Twitter or whatnot. We want to see your tier list. Let us know in the comments below whether you agree with our tier list. What changes would you make? Do you think we are way off the mark for some reason in some categories, or do you think we are spot on? We're all here for feedback. Leave it down in the comments below, and do comment and leave us like, share the video, and subscribe too. It helps us grow. We are a small channel, but we are always here to bring any type of inter content or Serie A content for you. And also click on the bell icon to get a notification as to whenever we put the video out. So that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning into the video. I know it was a bit lengthy, but it is a tier list. It takes time. Gautam, thanks for joining me, Gautam, as always. It's been a pleasure to have your opinion on this. Definitely needed someone. If I was going on alone, it wouldn't have been as good. So,
always, man,
no,
always.
so yeah, and I hope you had fun in doing this video too.
Yep.
So yeah, thanks guys for joining us. A bit of a different video, lengthy, but do hang in and try to watch the whole thing. As always, sempre Forza Inter, and yeah, we will be leaving all the links in the description below. Audio platforms, if you can't watch this, everything will be in the description, so don't worry. And yeah, sempre Forza Inter, guys.
Forza Inter.